They say it's always darkest before the dawn. And in the world of motorsports, those words ring especially true. As is tradition, Daytona greets us as we emerge from our winter hibernation. But this year, we awaken 30 years in the past. This time we celebrate a bygone era as drivers take to the unrefined beasts that are the Audi Quattro and Nissan GTP. A new season is about to dawn. The darkness about to fade. The Major Series and Late Apex Apparel proudly bring you the 2018 Classic Daytona 2.4, an endurance race from the ages, for the ages. Coming to you live, iRacing Live, on February 4th, 2018.
The hype is over and the green flag is within sight for the Major Series. It's finally here, round one, the classic Daytona 2.4 here on V8 Online. Jay Kennedy and Thomas Hinz, who will be alongside me very, very soon to get this underway in what will be one of the most hotly contested and interesting broadcast series that we have on iRacing. Will definitely be the biggest series ever seen on iRacing. Big welcome to you watching here on V8 Online to bring you the classic Daytona 2.4, something a little bit different from what we would normally see here on V8 Online. We start off this series with the classic IMSA cars, the Nissan GTP ZXT and the Audi 90 Quattro GTO. Two cars which are relatively new to iRacing, come out within the last 18 months or so, but don't get a huge amount of airtime and a huge amount of racing, especially on this side of the globe. So it's going to be really, really hotly contested with guys that are familiar with the cars coming from international regions or overseas regions to race with our Australasian drivers that we are used to seeing, and drivers from the Australasian region which do not drive these cars a great deal, and some hidden gems that race these cars or drive these cars quite a lot that have surprised people in qualifying this week. We do have, as we said, it's a 2.4 hour race, 144 minutes ahead for the drivers in this one. And we're looking forward to seeing how it all plays out and how it all unfolds, because it is going to be very, very hotly contested. As we said, a lot of drivers would never have actually raced these cars. Whilst they've driven it quite a lot during the week, we've seen some drivers do over 800 laps in practice. Some drivers have not ever raced an actual lap in these cars. We'll quickly talk about the starting grid and who will start from pole. Familiar name at the front of the grid for the Nissan class, with Dane Warren starting this one from pole. He's got nearly a full second on the whole field, so extremely good pace from Dane Warren. He will start that field from first position. But in the Audi class, a name that surprises a lot of people but does not surprise me is Ashley Lear. Ash does drive this car quite a lot, surprising a lot of people, being from talking that he's actually done some practice, and he's starting this one from pole. Actually is right up the top of the time attack sheets in this car, so drives this car quite a lot, does Ash, and good to see him punching in some very, very good lap times in qualifying this week as well as in practice. So we'll look to see Ash move up towards the front of the field. But as I said, quite a few names that we're not quite used to seeing in this in these races, and a few names that we are used to seeing who will be a little bit out of place, a little bit shuffled back from where we would normally see them, due purely to the fact that these cars are relatively unknown to a lot of these drivers. As I've said as well, we'll also see some drivers that we don't normally see in our broadcasts here on V8 Online, but are very, very familiar to other broadcast channels. Of course, this series broadcast by 4 main broadcasters, with us here at V8 Online doing the international. We've got the European split, which will be done by RaceSpot, the Atlantic split done by LSR TV, and the Pacific region will be broadcast by the crew at GSRC. So big thank you to the other broadcasters who have been involved in getting everything up and running. A big congratulations to the full crew behind the scenes from the Majors team to get this all up and running. And hopefully the drivers can put on a very, very good show, as they've got 4 minutes left in this warm-up session before we get the green flag ready to get this one underway. A couple of weeks ago we had the Daytona 2.4 and we saw that the speeds of the cars around about 290 odd k's per hour. These cars are quicker on the oval sections. Of course, massive turbos in this car, very, very high powered. They do absolutely want to kill you if you drive them way too hard. So look to see some guys that are a little bit inexperienced in these cars possibly have some issues. Especially coming towards the end of stints as well. Stint lengths as well, where Nissans will have to do 3 pit stops. The Audis will have to do 2. The Audi's pretty straightforward. We'll split it up evenly into 3 sections. But the Nissan class, they had a little bit of strategy games to play, whether they want to do 2 full-length stops and a splash and dash at the end, or whether they will break it up evenly into 4 segments and do 3 stops that way. So interesting to see how teams tackle strategy at the front of the Nissan class. We will see All-Star Motorsport versus Evolution Racing Team. A very mixed bag of teams and drivers though in the secondary class, the Audi class. Entries are still open as well, so the next race we'll have in this series in 2 weeks' time will be the Daytona 500. So all different sorts of racing and styles of racing in this series. So if you are still wanting to be a part of it, entries are still open. PacificMajors.com, all the details on how to join and how to get involved in this series. And a pretty cool schedule ahead for this series as well. As we said this week, the classic Daytona 2.4, Daytona 500, also have the Bathurst 500 later in the year as well in October. Of course, the Le Mans 24 in the end of June. That'll be awesome to see as all the teams battle and vie for the best team in the Majors series. It's actually the first series that we've had here on V8 Online where every single person involved in the commentary box and broadcast team is racing. So we notice a few familiar names out on track in this race from the commentary booth, and know myself and Cameron Dance will be racing in the Pacific time slot, and Thomas Hims will be with me in a moment. He'll be racing in the Atlantic time slot. On screen is Dane Warren, the man who will start this one from pole, but also have Reese Gardner. Also, he'll be doing some races in the Pacific time slot as well. Bo Albert is in this race with no headlights. He's very, very disappointed. So Bo out on track. Also Corey Ott on track as well. Pretty much the entire V8 Online team is out on track either in this one or in a later race in this series. So awesome to see as we get the checkered flag for warm-up. We are about to get the first race of the 2018 Major Series underway. The starting grid will be up on screen right now. And Dane Warren will start from pole, as we said, with Trevor Clement in second. Dane Burns in third, with Daniel Benefield starting fourth, then Dean Mole, Gene Fiddies, Scott Larnack, Christopher Norton rounding out the first 4 rows. Then Brett Loxton, Riley Blythe, Corey Ott, Christian Hinton, Lance Hawes, Jake Fox, Scott Griffiths, Bruce Smith, Martin Houston, Rory Boyd, James Robbie, and Jerry Farrell Club. I'm going to get that wrong. Apologies, Jerry. Mark Noble, Brett Trosian, then Bradley Matheson, Robert Crow, and James Kingland round out the field in the Nissan. In the Audi next, we've got Dan Constantis first, and Ashley. They are the front row in that class. Then Shane Bowen next with Corey Preston, Alex Sheridan, John King, Bo Albert, and over the page to Ray Partridge, Robert Northway, Adam McLeod, Trevor Mack, Dee Palmer, Daniel Aitchison, TJ Brown, Jonathan Ben, and JD Snyder rounding out the field as Thomas Hinz has jumped into the booth, and we are getting ready to get this one underway. Thomas, thank you for jumping in.
Yeah, no worries. I saw the race starting, thought better get in. Good timing to jump into this one. Welcome to the Line, of course, as Jay gave the intros for the majors, international majors. First race of the season, going all throughout the year. All sorts of different cars being played here, and for today it's a classic 2.4 hours of Daytona, with obviously the Nissan GTB and the Audi. And yeah, we're looking ready to go very soon. Dane Warren, of course, on pole, set a blistering time in qualifying, a good 7/10 or so faster than the second place car. So you'd think he's on the song to have a good race here, but obviously being an endurance style format race and with multi-class, you never know what will happen. And the closing speeds are very insane. So it's entirely unlikely something can happen because the Nissans really thunder up on the Audis. But the pace car is in, we're ready to go for 2.4 hours of racing, and we're away. And Dane has got an absolutely pearler of a start. Jumped it perfectly, got a nice gap already. Not even into turn 1 yet. That's a good about probably a car length or 2. Trevor there going in pretty deep behind him, but said it'll be line astern for now. 2.4 hours of racing to come, so you wouldn't think they'll be going too crazy in this opening lap. But in saying that, Trevor having to defend here from Jane Burns. Daniel Benefield's in there as well, up the inside of Burns for P3, so takes that position.
Oh, big crash behind though.
Oh, yep. Oh, and it's Riley Blythe involved in that too. Oh, there's a few of them rounds. They'll try and negotiate the stricken car. Heavy damage on the side of that one too. Here come the
Audi's coming through as well. This is going to get real messy.
Oh no, look at them everywhere. There's cars all over the place as they try and sort themselves out. I think they've managed to get through. Wow, that was intense. We'll go back and have a look at what happened there. It looks like, Riley Blythe's just plain ran into, actually, if anything, looks like, I think it was Brett Loxton, but looks of it's just giving him a tap in the mid-corner, and that sent him round. So, unfortunate, but they are still going at least, and we somehow, despite all that, managed to avoid major incidents. So I'd call that a success, Jay.
Yep, no major damage, and looks like everyone has got through, not unscathed, but without too much damage. And what has happened at the front of the Audi field actually was in amongst those back markers of the Nissans, and looking up the inside is Corey Preston on Ashley, but not quite able to do it. I was saying just before you jumped in, very not surprised that Ashley Lear is the fastest car in this class. So gotta watch out for him in this one. And Benefield side by side up the front with Trevor Clement for second place.
Yeah, around the outside into T1, it looks like a weird line, but it can actually work if you can hold on to it, but he won't quite be able to, and Trevor's going to hold for now, but this is really helping out Warren out in front. He's holding up Burns and Mole behind Gene Fitties. I said it right this time. I finally got it right, Gene. So there we go. It only took, 6 months or more for me to finally realise there's no L there, but he's next in line in 6th with Scott Larnack behind him. And then you've got Christopher Norton, Corey J. Ott, one of our Daytona Line brethren, in 9th, and then Jake Fox rounds out your top 10 in the Nissans at the moment. But yeah, really nice battle here for second as Benefield has got through, yeah.
Have a look at the front of the Audis. We have a change of position with Corey Preston now in the lead from Ashley.
Oh, yep.
Then Constantis in 3rd with Boa, but in 4th. They're broken away from the rest of the field. So I'm going to suggest that they will probably swap positions nearly every lap at the front of this class. As we go back to the Nissans, have a look at them side by side through NASCAR 2 or Oval 2. And Dean Mole at the back, the 3rd car in this train.
Yeah, and look at this,
Benefield's
really nice
checked out, hasn't he?
Yeah, he has indeed. It looks like they got better race pace. It looks like the third place car a little bit struggling on race pace at the moment, at least in these early stages. So hopefully for Trevor's sake he can find a bit more pace, because at the moment it's not really enough, because Molmy, Larnack now and Norton have all jumped up to it as well. Seem to have lost one of them though, but anyway.
Yeah, Gene Fiddy's is having internet issues.
Yeah.
He's dropped out of the race. Going 3 wide into 1, boys. This doesn't work.
They're still going. The 19's going to go wide. Mole's going to try and take advantage of this. Go up the inside. He does
Clement's actually spun though. He's in the wall.
Oh no.
It's gone way too deep.
Oh yeah.
He's just flicked back in the opposite direction, hit the wall. We're going to get a CPR replay because that was a big hit into the wall.
He's gone in just way too hot. Trying to defend there. It looks like he got a wiggle on the braking zone as well, which probably didn't help. And then from there, he's just gone spearing off. And that's a pretty heavy contact as well. So I don't know. Looks like he's going to continue on anyway. He did hit it pretty square, so hopefully the steering's still fine. But that's heavy damage, so I can't imagine that thing will be too quick in a straight line. So probably just going to try and bring it home and get a result out of that one. So we've already got a casualty up front already in the distance. Only or just over 10 minutes, not even, sorry, just over 5 minutes in this race. Dan Warren's still leading out in front, as we would expect, but Benefield is coming at him. And has sort of been keeping him in check so far. Mole's in third. Burns is still fourth, but he's about, fourth. He's about to come under the pump from Larnack and Nornson, though. And Corey also not far behind that either. So we've got a good battle here beginning to arise about P4 and distance.
Go back to the Audis, have a look at Preston slow on to the oval. We're going to come around the outside. Is Ashley? He's going to get him done before they even get to the straight. Or is he? The outside line obviously is a little bit slower because you are running a lot further with the banking. Preston on the inside, he's going to have to forgive that spot. Is he? Oh, contact!
Oh!
And Lee's going to have to go straight ahead. So this is going to help Akara Constantis. He's going to come through, and they've got Nissan's trying to get through as well. He's trying to give up this slowdown penalty that he'll have.
Yeah. A really weird instant, that one, because, it looks like, I don't know if maybe he got a little bit of a, he drifted a bit under braking, but that was a really weird little moment there from Corey.
Just going to get a CPR replay of something else, because our race leader is changed, because Dane Warren is now back in second place. He's actually looped it.
Oh, gee. It just keeps going. He's down in third, second now. He nearly got taken by Mole, but more dramas here at the front of the field. It just keeps coming in this race. We'll see if we can go back and see if I can have a look as well. I'm imagining
just out of the bus stop, just lost it. The second part of the bus stop, and did a good job to regather it and keep on. The pace he's got though, as we said in practice, he is a second quicker than the entire field. So don't be surprised to see him work his way back through. As Preston is now back ahead of Lear, so Lear's got back into line. It is all as it was at this point. 1 lap ago.
Ooh.
Battle at the front of the Audi class looks to be the hottest at the moment, doesn't it?
Yeah, although you say that, Burns just went a bit hot through the bus stop, and that's let Larnack cruise up onto him. He's going to go up high, try to go around the outside, and we have Burns going to have it. There we go. But Burns probably has a slowdown actually. He did have to cut the bus stop, so it's going to drop behind Norton and Larnack, who have been really pretty good movers in this field, up to P4 and 5 respectively from 7th and 8th on the grid. So doing pretty well, these two, and their pace is quite strong. So keep this up, they might be able to challenge maybe for a podium at the rate they're going, as I reckon they've got a little bit of a pace edge over Mole ahead of them.
Just hearing Gene Fiddy's has had issues with the sim crashing, so Iris actually gave him a proper crash, so that's him done in the race, unfortunately. Not a good way to start this series.
No, for sure. It's unfortunately, way the sims are, you get those sort of moments. But we're at it again at the top of the Audi class. Lear versus Preston down the main straight. Looks like Lear's going to get this time the slipstream, but Preston's still just sticking a nose in there. Or except later into T1s, they'll be side by side as they enter the first corner. I think Lear, he's a bit wide though, and again, being four-wheel drive, obviously the Audis are a bit of a weird car to drive, being four-wheel drive. Really got to sort of point and shoot the cars, a bit like in rallycross. Because obviously, being four-wheel drive, they've got a lot of understeer going on when you try and turn them in. So Corey managing to hold on there, but Lear's right there, and obviously Karen Constantis is there as well, and you've got Albert well within range too. And actually, John M. King is not too far back, kind of in a bit of space of his own between two battling Audi packs. He's got one behind him as well. So all very interesting stuff. At the moment, the Audis, the lead Audis, are probably already close to coming up on some Audi traffic. They are indeed not far from the back end of the Audi field already. So that's how much of a speed difference there is. But Dane pumps in a 33.6, half a second quicker than Benefield. So the charge back is continuing. Mole fair way down. Actually, it's kind of stabilised that battle from third, fourth, fifth. But Norton and Larnack having a pretty nice little battle. Might want to watch in the future.
Yeah, these two guys, and pace-wise as well, lap time-wise, probably about the same pace as Mole, but those two at the front, definitely in a league of their own at the moment, 33.6, and Benefield the lap previous to the 33.8, so they're the fastest two cars on track. No one else is even close to getting 33s, so we'll watch those two probably blitz away at the front of the field. But to go back to the front of the Audi class, they have got Brett Loxton and Riley Blythe coming on through, so Lear won't be able to get the advantage with the draft this time for now, but anyway, he's well and truly within striking range for the next lap around. In saying that, Loxton's actually got out of it very early, and Preston aggressive under brakes, and he's around. Is he going to keep it out of the fence? No in the fence, but he has dropped. He's going to drop 2 spots, and possibly Albert as well.
Yeah, it's looking like he's gone off again as he's trying to recover. Oh man, Preston all over the place at the moment at the start of this race. And yeah, just big moment into T1. He manages to more or less minimise the damage though. It could have been a lot worse. He's going to still end up third in class and mid-range, so that could have been a lot worse for Preston. But he does drop down and now has Barrel for company, who of course can't do his usual flashy headlight thing, because obviously the Audis don't have front headlights, which I'm sure saddens Bo greatly. but he'll put the pressure on Corey for third, and they are still in range of Lear and Dan. It looks like, if anything, the rest of these drivers behind Lear may just have a little bit of an advantage in pace, but obviously, especially with the way the Audis are being a little bit slower than the Nissans, the slipstream is a very, very powerful factor, and that's probably what's keeping these four together, is they're all pretty similarly paced, and the slipstream just keeps them going. So keep an eye on how this battle goes. I believe we have some, just going to look when the Nissan leaders are. They're pretty close, they are indeed, to coming to the end of the GT, or the Audi field, so about to get into the lap traffic for good. And once again, Benefield about 3 or 4 tenths slower than Dane that lap. The guys behind also continuing to pump out similar sort of times we were before. So at the moment, the battle at the front is spicing up. And yeah, there's going to be a lot of Audis that these two are going to come across very soon too. We got a Nissan around out of the bus stop, and he's gone. That was, I believe, that was Rory Boyd, who crashed out of the bus stop. Looked like heavy damage as well. I was looking back at the replay here, and pretty much lost it in the same sort of spot as Dane. Oh, got a twitch out at the bus stop and just speeded straight into the wall. Heavy damage, and let's say that'll be his race over. So the casualties are already mounting up in this race, Jay, but obviously with these cars, they're anything but forgiving to drive.
That was a strange one too, almost like a failure of some sort, because it just went hard right. Okay. It's not like it slid right or anything, it was just a strange, definite straight right. So
weird one.
Interesting to see if we hear back from that. As we go back to the front of the Audis, thought we were going to see Stannis come through and pass Lear, but it's actually been Preston that's been the mover. He's jumped up into second place once again, and Lear now under pressure once again from Preston.
Yeah, indeed, and noticing as well, John M. King's actually tagged on the back of this pack as well, so we've got a 5-way fight at the front of the Audi field. So King showing some good pace there behind these guys while they've all been scrapping away. As here comes Corey for attempt, I think it's number 3 or something, to try and pass Lear. So at it again as they go to the bus stop. Will they get through contact free is the question. As they're going to go into it. Looks like Corey's going to have to back out of that one. With the Ashley just being in a bit better of a position there, but we'll get the run now out of here. And again, you've got Dan behind, you've got Albert as well, and you've got John there too. So these guys keep battling. It's just going to get a bit tighter as the cars behind catch up too. So we'll keep an eye on this. As the slipstream probably trying to get a bit of side draft there as well. It's going to be side by side yet again in turn 1. Hopefully they can keep it nice and clean here.
The first time that Lear's had this inside line into turn 1. Every other lap where they've been side by side, Lear's been stuck on the outside, and Stannis probably looks the best out of the 3 into turn 1, doesn't he? He looks the most stable under brakes.
Yeah, he's just looked very stable in general, doesn't he? He's just sitting back there taking his time. He's just biding his time, making sure he's in range, and that's kind of how it is a lot of time here at Daytona with the way that obviously the big oval part of the track is. You just kind of need to sit there and be in the right spot for you know, all this race pretty much up to the last kind of 10, 15 minutes. As long as you're in the right spot, then you can make the good moves right at the very end when it really matters. And that's probably what Dan's thinking, and why he's not really doing anything too risky. He's just keeping the car very clean. You know, making sure he's hanging off the back of these two so he can be there right at the very end of the race. So good stuff from him. But still there in 4th, and obviously King 5th, and it's Alexander Sheridan in 6th. 7th is Shane Boyd battling with Robert Northway there as well. And you've got Daniel number 471 Machine Audi next up, and I think the next Audi is Trevor Mack, and then I believe it's 810 as the lead Nissans are coming up through the A traffic for the first time. So Benefield and Dame Warren coming through the field to lap the traffic, and that has helped Benefield as well. He actually was half a second quicker last lap by, and I'm guessing some traffic management was involved in that. So this is where it all gets to that stage where these battles will, and these gaps will ebb and flow a bit as they deal with traffic, as always tends to be the case, because one car might catch one at a good spot, the other might not. So it's always a very ebb and flow sort of thing as these guys keep the traffic.
Carrick and Standis right in behind the rear wing of Preston and Lear, as well as Preston tries to go around the outside once again into turn 1. So this is a true 5-car battle for the class lead. And Preston's going to get hung out to dry on the outside. Oh, this is going to be messy.
Oh, sorry, I'm just looking at. I was still looking at Benefield actually getting really close to a couple of the Audis through the first turn there. So really close moments of traffic, but he got through in the end. Dane's still back there chasing or giving chase to the leader of this race. They're not too far off, coming up on this battling 5-pack of Audis. So going to get very interesting very soon.
And we talk about a lot with multi-class racing that it really comes down to luck as to when you get past or past someone else. So we could see this pack broken up. We could see it change, shuffle, anything's well and truly an option. As I'm just hearing Jake Fox has had a little bit of a spin at turn 3. If we can get a replay of that.
Oh, yep, half spin by the looks of it. Oh, yeah, just went in a little bit hot. Back end has come out, and credits on me, recovered that pretty well. To be fair, half spin. Always really difficult to get these things going because of the way, obviously, especially in the Nissan, the way the boost works, because it's so high end on the boost. There is an awful lot of turbo lag when you do try to set off from a low RPM, so it's very easy to just sort of be dabbing the throttle lever that bit too much, and then the boost kicks in and round you go. So credit to Jake to be able to get that going without too many problems. So still plodding along. We'll see if he lost. I don't think he actually lost any positions either, so he stays 8th in class. So solid stuff in.
Yeah, here comes the leaders through that lead Audi pack. So Benefield is through on Albert and King, and now has Constantis, and also a slower Nissan in Crow in the middle of this pack as well. So this is going to get rather messy rather quickly.
Yeah, and you can see it's really making things a bit difficult, and it's always the problem when you got that slower car of the same class. It really makes things difficult as well. Crow nearly pushing. Lance falls off the track, or Hayes I think is off the track, and he's round, there he goes. Spears into the wall heavily, and I'm not sure what the go was there. It looks like, I think,
wasn't it?
Yeah, I think Lance wasn't expecting him to brake as early as he did, and then he's had to dodge him and had nowhere to go. Tried to dodge him as best he could, but still had the contact there. So it's kind of building over there, because I don't know what Crows was doing, but he nearly pushed Lance off on the grass at the corner before. So a bit of a dicey moment there, but anyway, how it can go, but especially with these cars as well, the way they drive and how insane, especially the Nissan is, it can be really easy to have those kind of moments.
But Warren has got through on those leaders in the Audi, and he's now got it down to under a second between he and Benefield. So it's going to be a really interesting battle between these two in the next lap or so. I was saying before too, the pit strategy is going to be really interesting for these guys as well at the front. Whether they do 3 even stops or whether they do 2 full pit stops and a splash and dash. So the Nissan having a little bit of interesting strategy. The Audi not so much, with it being pretty clear cut. You pit at every time your tank's empty, fill her up and go again. So Race length ideal for the Audi, but not so for the Nissan. We're seeing Larnack and Norton side by side.
Yeah, indeed, and that'll be the interesting. And I think also it's interesting to note with the Nissans, I'm pretty sure the tyres do change under fuel, so they probably will be changing tyres every stop, because obviously, again, why not, seeing as you're filling up anyway, it doesn't cost you anything, so there's no real need to worry about tyre strategy, so that's something that the drivers don't have to worry about, so it'll just be fuel. It will still be interesting, as you say, to see who takes the shorter fuel when they do, or if they try and even all stints out, or how they do it. It'll be really fascinating to watch that develop over the race. As Norton and Larnack having a nice battle. They've been pretty much even Steven since the start, doing a very, very similar pace as they make their way through the lead Audis, just coming up to that lead battle now.
Just going to draw your attention away from that though, because have a look at the battle for the lead of this race. Have a look at the run that Warren's got. He could potentially get past coming into the bus stop. He's going to get out of it, but I would not be surprised if we don't see a change for the lead on this next lap, because Warren is on a charge right now. Yeah,
for sure. Benefield just doesn't have that pace that Warren has. Warren's just too much pace in that car. And I'd imagine Benefield won't fight it too hard. I don't think there's much point to fight it when Dane is clearly a good chunk faster than pretty much everyone else on the track. So here he goes again. Dane slipped through him, obviously with these cars, particularly powerful, being very aero-heavy cars. But Benefield making him go the long way around. And oh wow, Dane just brakes super late. Oh, look at that. Unbelievable braking from Dane and Casuals alike around the outside. Gets a stop, no problem. And off he goes. That was a pretty textbook move there for Dane Warren. So good stuff from him. And he now has the lead back once more. So Benefield will probably try and tag on, see if he can maybe learn something from Dane here, but Dane's just got the edge, unfortunately. He's just got a little bit more pace than everybody else, and I don't know if Daniel's got much to fight against that.
Just going to go back to the battle for the lead in the Audi class, because they've got that really tight battle between Larnack and Norton. They're trying to come through while Lear and Preston were battling. It looks like it's all as it was. Actually, we're going back to the front because Benefield's back through and Warren stopped. Ooh. Warren has hit the wall, I think. What has happened to Dane Warren?
Yeah, left side's damaged. Left rear is damaged there. So let's have a look here. Oh, he has, yeah. Oh, he just looped it out of the hairpin. Oh, yeah, got wheel spin out of the hairpin. And tried to correct it and then overcorrected, and it's just gone left into the wall. And he should be okay though. He only gave the wall a little bit of a kiss on the rear, so he might have a little bit of aero damage, but considering things, that could have been a lot worse. So Dane gets away with that for now, but that's going to be a killer for him if he keeps doing that. That's going to open the door for Benefield and others to possibly jump in for the results. So Dane's pace is there, just seems his consistency is not quite there yet with this car.
Staying with our CPR replay, because Riley Blythe as well has had an issue into turn 1 straight after that, and actually was a lap car. Must have come across and distracted Blythe, and he's ended up too late on the brakes and almost looped it around. Good recovery from Blythe. So 2 game-changing incidents as Warren's dropped back to 3rd. Lear and Preston are still going at it. There's 3-car battle for the lead in the Audi class right now. This is really intense in the Audi.
Yeah, for sure. The Audi's really turning it on here in this event, and they've got various Nissans now coming through. Corey Alt's just behind them now, and looking to make his way through. So they're trying to battle themselves, try and make sure they're not losing too much to their competitors, and then also deal with the faster traffic charging through their ranks. So it's interesting scenario to be in, but they're managing well enough so far. They're now letting Corey through the kink there.
Oh, big crash at the bus stop. Ooh. Big crash at the bus stop. 2 Nissans in the fence.
Ooh, yep.
See if we can pick up what's happened.
Brett Trosson's one of them in the Rotherham's Porsche. Oh, that was Trevor Forster, actually, our second place car. And it looks like, that's a bit, maybe a little bit clumsy there from Trevor. It looks like he was behind Brett coming into the bus stop, and he hasn't really expected how much Brett would slow up there and get the line a little bit wrong.
So Trevor Clement he was 3rd, he'd move up to 2nd. And that's looks like a possibly race done for him.
Yeah, he's in the pits. Yeah, he's done. So, wow, that's a real shame for him, because he was just obviously qualified near the front, and it looks like he spun as well. Yeah, so he spun with him. Got hit by Brett as he came back around. And hit the wall relatively hard, and obviously thought that'll do for him. So. Casualties building up pretty thick and fast. We're down to about 34 or so cars now, thereabouts. So already the first sort of 24, 25 minutes, we've had plenty of action and carnage going
Got
on.
another issue too. I'm just getting a replay. Corey Preston, something's happened to him because he's ended up in the fence.
Yeah, I've just caught his recovery, yeah.
Coming back onto the oval through the last corner on the infield, he slammed the tyre bundle. He's got massive damage to that car.
He lost a lot of time. Look at how far back he is as well. So that's a really big incident. And he's pitting, he's pitting for repairs. I'm guessing the steering's probably not the greatest on that car, so he's having to pit for repairs. So he'll probably keep going, but it's effectively race over for him, as this is more or less a single endurance race, basically single person endurance race, but it is still only just under 2.5 hours. So if you do have an incident that's a pretty big one, then you're effectively out of contention for the race. So see if you can recover. But
whilst it's an endurance race, it's a 2.5 hour sprint race in some aspects as well. As we're just seeing the battle for the lead. We're going to change for the lead in the Audi class. But then Karakonstanis now in the lead. Ashley's dropped behind, and there was a car off the track there as well. I couldn't quite pick up who that was.
I'm not sure. I'll go back and find out, but don't know on that one.
On the timing, Corey Preston has come back out onto the track. Benefield at the front in our Nissan class leads now by 11 seconds, so pretty decent lead as Dane Warren starts to come back on through. He's lapping fairly similar lap times to Benefield. I'll see if he can close that gap. Maybe after the first round of pit stops, he can close up some of that ground as well.
Yeah, indeed. It'll be interesting to see whether that damage is affecting him. I guess with his pace it is, because we know he can do a lot quicker than this. Ooh, that's right. But his pace is he's doing 35.2s, which is slower than he was doing. He was doing 33s earlier on, so I think that damage is not completely killing his lap time, but it's doing enough that he's not really got that edge that he had before. So I think he's probably suffering a bit on the top end, which might make it a bit more difficult to make this move back up to second spot. But we'll see how this pans out for Dane. Again, just lost on his own coming through the second hairpin. He's already lost it at the bus stop as well, so a couple of errors from Dane have crept in at the start of this race, which are really hampering his efforts. If he could minimise the errors, he'd probably be leading by a good 10-15 seconds by now, but unfortunately not how it's gone. But still a long way to go in this race. We've just ticked under 2 hours to go, so hour 58 or so, and he's nearly gone again at the bus stop. He manages to stop that one from going in the wall, but again you lose it, and that's how it is with these Nissans. You do have to be, especially in race trim, I think you need to be a little bit erring on the side of caution, because if you try and push them 11 tenths every lap, then you will end up spinning off, I think, because these cars are just very unforgiving. He's actually pulling in the pits now, Dane, so not sure if he's maybe got some wheel damage or something like that, which is causing him to pit here, but
he could be doing that shorter stint early on, and then doing two longer stints, maybe to try and get some damage repaired and get back out there. So alternating the strategy, not too far off that even split pit window being open as well, for around about 24 odd laps that some drivers or some teams will break it up into. So going back to the lead for the Audis once again, because Karakonstantis is under attack from Lear. They've broken away from King, and Bo Albert's dropped behind Alexander Sheridan as well. So changing positions in the Audi field. But the lead to Karakonstantis and Lear are nice and close, battling very, very hard right now.
Yeah, for sure, and it's a really nice battle in front of the Audi field. We've seen a lot of really good battling from them throughout. They've been really, really close to the front of that class, and I think Sheridan seems to be coming through a bit, because he's actually been closing in the last few laps, I reckon, on the rest of the Audi field. So keep an eye on him, and King's pace has been pretty solid as well, whether he's in slipstream or his own. So those two cars possibly ones to watch to challenge for the lead later on. But Dan holding for now, but Ashley is right there, putting the pressure on. You can see King just looming in the background, and not far behind them is that battle for P4 in class. So we'll see how this one pans out. But Dan, his pace is good, but again, we know the slipstream is very effective in every car around here, because of just how long the oval sections that are used are. So all they really need to do, all Ashley needs to do, is just stick in Dan's slipstream, and he can just kind of hang on to him and keep him in range, and make sure he's there for when it really matters to make the move, which is the last kind of 15-20 minutes of the race.
And the pace that Dan's got, they probably just need to work together a little bit, these two, and they can break away from King, Sheridan and Albert behind. They're only drivers at the moment still lapping in the 1:42 range. John King, Sheridan and Beau Albert, mid 43s up to 44s. So they keep working together. They will be able to move forward. Seeing Dane Warren is back out on track, and that car looks a lot better damage-wise. So he's got about 30 seconds of damage fixed on that car, and it looks nice and straight. He's come out ahead of Riley Blythe, who's also been in the pits to get some damage repaired after that lap 1 incident. And Warren now finds himself on an alternate strategy, which could end up possibly gaining him back into the race lead at some point in this race.
Yeah, for sure. It's looked like I think they do from memory get a fast repair. I think that's correct, Jay. I think they get a fast repair during these races. I'm trying to rattle my mind to remember, but
I don't
it did
believe
look
they
like
do.
I think so. Okay. It just looked like he's damage repaired as soon as he stopped in the boxes. All I was thinking.
Maybe.
Could be wrong. Could be wrong. can't remember exactly. Apologies on that one.
Yeah, I can't remember either. I've read the rulebook, but I can't actually remember.
It's all good. It's all good anyway, because I think even if there wasn't, it was only a minor hit to the wall. So I think even if it wasn't, it probably repaired pretty quickly. So either way, it probably wouldn't have mattered for Dane. So it is looking brand new again. So they've been able to get the hammer out and bang that wing back into shape, and he's back to, I'd say, full pace once again. So I wouldn't be surprised if we see Dane closing in again on Daniel over the next stints, but it's all going to depend on whether he can keep it out of trouble, because it's the thing that we're noticing with Dane so far. He just making those little errors, and in these races they just keep building up, and they'll keep costing you, and can cost you wins and even podiums if you don't sort of bring them down. So hopefully Dane can get a nice groove as this race goes on and minimise those errors. He comes around now for what should be his first lap. He gets some slipstream from some Audis, which helped him across that one, but otherwise time 34.6, a bit more what we'd expect from him. Might just be toning it down to maybe just trying to bring down the pace a little bit to make sure that he doesn't have those errors like he's been having this first half an hour. Yeah,
he was actually 2 tenths quicker than Benefield that lap, so that's now the real marker as to the comparison between those two. But yeah, wouldn't be surprised if Warren's now just turning it down from 11 back to a 9, just to get himself back into a groove and back into a rhythm again, and possibly get himself up a few spots before he starts to get that all-out attack once again. He's got 5 seconds to the car ahead, so keep an eye on that. But the battle at the front of... Oh, just hearing a car spinning. That is John King, the car from 3rd position in the Audis.
Yep. With the hairpin, first hairpin.
Alexander Sheridan.
Or second hairpin. Yeah.
Alexander Sheridan now has taken 3rd spot away. Beau Albert's back into 4th. We've got a CPR replay and pick up exactly what happened. It was just a slow spin, I think. There was also a Nissan spinning just behind, or having a slide anyway.
Yeah, looks like he just lost a bit under braking. Pretty similar to Corey, just kind of wandered right on him, probably locked the rears, and then he's nearly hit the grass and then gone left the other way, and he's just kind of just locked them all up and get stopped and had to recover. So a little bit of a shame lost the turnaround with these being 4 drivers, a bit of a plane, so a bit of a long turning circle there, but gets back around. Probably lost effectively about 10 seconds maybe, if that's not too bad for John. He gets away without any damage either, so that could have been a lot worse. So credit to John for sort of minimising the damage on that one. But yeah, good battle in the front or the next behind. I think Sheridan and Albert's probably the one to watch. Albert's looking pretty keen to maybe try and make a move potentially. No, looks like he's going to hold back for now, but they'll want to try and keep themselves in range of Ashley and Dan, who are no doubt doing the same thing, but they're going to have to try and work together a bit better than the 2 ahead to reel them back in and both have a chance of trying to win this class.
It's just behind King is Northway and Shane Bowen. They're going at it pretty hard at the moment, are these two? So see what they do. They have just they did change position for a moment and then change back again, but Northway is the 3rd fastest car on track at the moment, so that 55 of Robert Northway is one to watch, because lap time wise not far off the pace of Karakonstanis and Lear at the moment.
Yeah, definitely. It's very close at the front of that class, and really Sheridan has been lapping very well. He started a bit further back, started about 5th or so in class, and just been really chipping away and staying out of trouble. His pace has been super solid. He's been more or less matching the leaders a lot of the time. Not the last lap though, so we'll see whether that can be brought up. It was a Nissan. It was Dan in the bus stop there. It was a bit close. The closing speeds, as I mentioned, are pretty extreme between the two class of cars, especially at the bus stop. The closing speeds really do become apparent. So it's no surprise with the odd incident with such higher closing speeds, but either way, everyone's managing to keep it relatively together so far. We've had a couple more moments here and there, but nothing too major, which is good to see. Everyone's generally keeping it pretty clean, which is nice driving from all involved. But yeah, looking solid for Dane pace-wise as well. 34.7 that lap, so it does look like he may have just brought down that aggression a little bit. He's just trying to make sure he keeps that consistency rather than for all-out pace every lap. So just trying to keep that nice and straight. Because obviously, you'll be as quick as you want, but if you keep having moments to keep spinning, you're basically losing all the time you gain from pushing. So you're better off just bring it back a little bit, trying to get that consistency going.
I was saying before you actually got into the booth that this is the first series I think every single member of the V8 Line team is getting involved in. I know you've been putting in a fair few laps of practice this week. I think you're racing the Atlantic time slot.
I'm just trying to remember. Yeah, I think it's the Atlantic or the Pacific. I'm trying to remember now. I'll actually quickly get the qualifying results up now, and I can see.
I think yeah, you've qualified inside the top 3.
Yeah, unbelievably. I don't know how, but yeah, I think I was only a few tenths off pole in our region, which is all the region I was doing, which is cool. Only Aussie in that region, but of course, everyone in this Aussie is doing this one, because this one's not meant for Aussies. But I thought, as mentioned before, I thought I'd do a different one so that if needed, I can jump in the booth with you, Jay, to assist. So yeah, no, it was good fun. I've been really enjoying the car. I really like this, and it is completely crazy. And especially one advice I can give, if you want to have a really sort of fun and sort of just crazy bonkers time, is take the Nissan around Bathurst. It is just too much. I tried to, when Kimmel GT was there last season at one point, I just jumped in one of the practices to have a go and see what it was like, and it was too fast. I honestly was struggling to process what was happening. So you were just basically flat across the top, and with the downforce these things have, that's 200 plus, probably 250, well, getting near 250 across the top. I just couldn't really process the whole thing. So it's pretty crazy, and as I mentioned, the turbo lag in them is pretty insane as well. So they're very tricky to drive, and that's no wonder Dane's having the ultimate issue here, because they will, when they go, they don't go lightly, they go pretty heavily. So definitely not the easiest car, but yeah, no, it's good fun. I've been really enjoying it. Put in the practice laps, and I was really happy with the quality. I was very happy to get that lap in. So yeah, hopefully it'll be a good race. I think it's tomorrow about 1 time, I think.
Yep.
So that'll be good fun. I think that one's being broadcast by GSRC.
Yep.
So
That one will
should be
be.
good fun.
And I know Cam Dance and myself will also be racing in that time slot normally. I won't be able to race this round due to other commitments, but hopefully I'll be out there for Daytona 500 in 3 weeks' time. Important that the international schedule is slightly skewed from the rest of the schedule, with V8 Scops clashing with quite a few of the events, but I think it's in a way going to be better, because how cool is it going to be in 2 weeks' time, real life Daytona 500 and the Majors Daytona 500 at the same weekend? How cool is that going to be?
It's going to be awesome. Yeah, it's going to be a really packed weekend of NASCAR action, and what better way to spend it. It'll be a really cool event. I'm personally not the best, and generally just I'm not the best with the plate racing with NASCAR. It doesn't really suit me too well, but I'll still have a go. That's the point for me in the majors, is to turn up and have some fun and have a go. And obviously the variety of cars suits that as well. And obviously after Daytona we flip it again and have the Silver Crowns as the next race, which is a car that again I've not tried before, so that one will be another new experience too. So it's all sorts going on. Obviously Gates there, GT3 IMSA as well, dirt oval stuff and sprint cars too. So there's all sorts. It really is a jack of all trades series. So the people who are going to do well over the season will be those guys who can, at least be competitive in most of these cars. They don't have to be the fastest in each car, but just be close enough to get those good points every single race.
I think it's cool too with all the different types of racing. It's not only different cars, but oval racing versus road racing, two very different beasts. And to be a master of both is a very, very tough gig. It's just seeing a replay of Brett Trozen into the fence as he's ended up on the oval. That was a nasty hit into the wall. So you may see Brett into the pits. I tell you what, the attrition rate. Had a fair few cars in the pits. We've got 14 odd cars that have been into the pits already in this race, and we're only just over half an hour through.
Yeah, indeed. It's been a pretty high casuals rate already, and we're only just getting into this race. But as I mentioned, these cars are very unforgiving. They don't give you a quarter at all, neither the Nissan nor the Audi. So it's not too surprising. We're seeing a pretty high casualty rate here at this first race of this season. Daytona being Daytona, I imagine there'll be at least one or two big ones throughout those races. It isn't Daytona if there isn't, at least a big one during the race somewhere. Just confirmed as well on Pacific's the one I'm doing actually, so Pacific time zones. So I don't think I think if Cam's doing the Atlantic, I'll probably won't be in with him. I think I checked the qualifying results. I was the only Aussie in the Pacific, so that'll be fun with the ping for me. But anyway, we'll see how we go. But no, it should be fun. I'm really enjoying the car, and I just wish the one thing I do wish Kamal was a bit more popular and got a bit more numbers, because I think these cars, they're such unique cars and such just beasts. It's a real shame that Kamal GTs. It's a little bit of a niche series, sort of a core community, a bit like with the Pro GT and a couple other series. It's kind of a core community that does them, and that's about it. The wider scheme, it's not really driven too much outside of the 1 or 2 softs a week. So it'd be good to see some more numbers, and maybe the majors. Who knows? Maybe the majors could sort of bring in some more people into the series, which is another great thing that it can do, being that as we mentioned, because it's driving all sorts of different cars, from these to the Silver Crowns, and all sorts of other machines. I'm hoping they can maybe get some interest going in some lesser known series on iRacing.
I think last year when iRacing ran the Road America 500, that a lot of people had never really driven these cars other than quick go in a practice session. That was about it, and it gave a lot of drivers a chance. And like you, a lot of people fell in love with them, but just so hard to find a time to actually race them, because there's so few people that do want to race these cars. And I know that in the time attack that they are quite popular, the Audi especially, but not really driven in races quite as much as you would hope or like. So hopefully a bit more love comes for both the Nissan and the Audi, and a few drivers jumping in and having a crack. Be good to see.
Yeah, indeed. And speaking of the Nissan, one of the things that's really interesting with the way it works, and something I didn't know when I first jumped in, and I only found out after I started doing a couple of laps, not too many, but a couple of laps, I was found out that these cars, even though they're obviously from the 80s, you wouldn't think that they need the clutch. The Nissans at least don't actually need the clutch. You can actually drive them without using the clutch at all. So, which is a really weird experience, using a car of its age and not having to use the clutch at all on the upshifts or downshifts. So it's a bit of a weird thing. The Nissan, it's bonkers fast, has some funky things going on, but I guess that's why it was as quick as it was. And obviously, it was its main success being in the American sports car era. Obviously back then in the 80s, there was all sorts of funky machinery in the American racing scene in the sort of categories that Nissan competed in. So always it was very much a time of innovation and just pushing everything to the absolute limit, no matter how just crazy it was. But yeah, Nissan kind of proved the concept of that. But that was something that I had to adjust to, is not having to do that for a car like this. When usually you'd expect you would, but with a Nissan, you don't have to, which is a bit of a strange one. But I guess that's just another quirk of the Gold GTB.
Yeah, I think it sort of adds to the car as well. I think it makes it a bit of character, because you're driving it a different way from what you would expect. You look at it and you go, okay, 80s prototype, need to make sure I've got everything set up right with how to use the clutch and all that sort of stuff, but it drives in a totally different way to what you would expect on paper.
Yeah, for sure. It does still have that turbo lag, as that distinctive 80s turbo lag. The down low, there's pretty much nothing, and then all of a sudden you get to about mid to high revs, and the boost just kicks in, and she just goes all of a sudden out of nowhere. And that's always a risk out of the low speed corners. Why you're probably seeing a few of these kind of lazy spins in the Nissan, and why, not just for this race, but probably for the European race and also the Pacific one as well, that being broadcast, you'll probably see some lazy spins going on, because the Nissan's like that. Because when you get to the low speed corners, of course, it's designed with downforce in mind. There is still, the tyres are, fat enough, they give enough grip at low speed, but obviously it's designed with high speed downforce in mind. So you get to low speed and get to those low revs, and you really have to be super gentle with the corners, because the moment that boost kicks in at the wrong time, if you do it that little bit too early, it'll just speed you off the fence in about half a second. So it is a very tricky car, and again, same with the Audi. They're both very tricky, unique cars, which probably explains a little bit as to why they're not as popular as well, being a little bit trickier to kind of master. But they are good fun. When you get them right, they are some of the most rewarding cars, I would say, on
Shout outs to Corey Ott, who's somehow found himself up into 4th position, just gone past Scott Larnack who's moving on up the field. Last lap around, Larnack was a little bit quicker, but he's now under pressure from Larnack. But Mott doing a good job in 4th position, but at the front, Benefield has got the gap out to 33 seconds.
Yeah, he's really motoring Benefield. His pace has been really solid, to be fair. He's been doing consistent 34s in race trim, which is always a good sign if you're doing that pace around here in the Nissan. Then you're looking pretty good in race trim, and that's what Benefield's proving right now. He's slowly walking away from his competitors. He's been opening the gap on Norton lap after lap, same with everyone behind him. But yeah, Corey looking pretty good at the moment, just keeping a consistent pace. And that's the thing, if you can just keep the pace good enough and avoid having spins and incidents, then you'll gain a lot. Because as I mentioned, the way these cars are, they are very tricky. They're even trickier than most modern GTs like to keep straight, because they're just so ferocious. So if you can just keep them straight and avoid those sort of lazy spins and do decent enough pace, you'll gain a lot on the people around you. I think Corey's showing that, coming from 11th to 4th at the moment. Should be 5th effective, with obviously Dane having pitted earlier on. So effective P5, but still a really solid start for him. But obviously a long way to go yet. We're hour 40 or so to go in this race. So we're closing in on the first hour. And nearly halfway already. And and I was just saying about lazy spins. Oh, the commentator's curse has happened. I have to apologise to Corey after. I was just saying about avoiding lazy spins, and he goes and does it out the first engine. So
it was always going to happen. You're doing that on him too. It was always going to happen.
Yeah.
And especially at the moment I flicked the camera off him as well, was the moment that it happened too. So it means that we're going to have to get a CPR replay. And actually, I think he may have lost. Oh, and there was actually a fair bit of contact between he and Larnack too. When Larnack went through, he gave him a pretty big hit.
Oh, and Larnack. Oh, and he nearly came back and collected his teammate well, but as well he had to try and gather it up. Good stuff from Larnack, to be fair, to gather that up, because once they go like that, they're generally nearly impossible to catch. But good stuff from Larnack to keep that generally straight and narrow. But yeah, I mean, not much he could do there. He's kind of spun right in front of him. He did what he could, and yeah, that was just as I said, it was literally pretty much exactly what I was explaining. Just how that corner probably got on the throttle a bit too much. The boost kicked in, the extra power got to the rear wheels. It was just a bit too much for it to bear. And around she went, and that's just how easy that thing can spin. It's, as I said, it's a great ball of fun when you get it right, but when it goes wrong, it generally doesn't go wrong lightly in those cars. So probably just lucky in the end that Larnack had the reactions he did, because very easily that could have been him absolutely T-bumped and essentially out of this race.
In front of the Audi class, Carrick Standis and Lear have pulled 14 seconds on Albert, who has Alex Sheridan not too far behind him. John King is not far off those guys as well. He's the next car back. Behind them as well, Bowen and Northway are still going at it. These guys were going at it, what, about 15, 20 minutes ago? They're still as they were. There's still the same gap, still going at it, as we're seeing the pits start to light up as well with Nissan.
Yeah, for sure. It's teeing up to be a really interesting race going into this middle phase. A lot of battles coming together. Dan is still leading Audis, of course. Ashley behind, Pro Albert in third. Bit of a gap back now. I think that's quite clear by the looks of it. The top two just got a bit of an edge on the rest of the Audis on pace. So the Sheridan, he did a 42 last time by, although that may have been the slipstream.
Have a look at the pace difference between Albert and Carrick and Standis last lap. Last lap, Albert. 145, that's 3 full seconds slower than our leaders. It's just behind him. There's contact between two cars. I'm not quite sure who that was. Our race leader is actually in the pits.
There you go. I think as well that slow that would have been because remember he had to slow down to avoid his teammates. So that'd be why. But even so, he's generally pace has been sort of low 44s, maybe mid 43s, which is still a good second off the top two who are doing consistent 42s. So those top two guys really in a league of their own. Sheridan did a 42 last lap as well, but I get the feeling that may have been with some slipstream help. So he looks like he's showing flashes of that pace, but I think he's quite consistently got the pace the top two do. So at the moment, right, this is going, it's looking like a bit of a two-horse race at the front of the Audis, and actually Dan just pulled a little bit more on Ashley that lap, actually pulled a second out of him there in that one. So
hey, have a look at who's back in the lead of the Nissan class. Dane Warren has got himself back into the lead. Benefield's coming out of the pits. And of course, these are on completely opposite strategies now, but Benefield back out after 29 laps in the first stint, and he will rejoin about 8 seconds behind Dane Warren.
Yeah, it looks like Dane, that strategy really working very well for him. He's done 34s and yeah, something at 33 at the start of the stint too, so his pace has been really solid so far. Looks like he may have got a bit lucky with traffic too. I probably only see one lap there, which was heavily affected by traffic, or 1 or 2 laps that have really been affected by traffic since he pitted. So he's been getting a lot of clean air by the looks of his laps, which has been helping him out a lot. And he has made the move again. I think he has dialed that down, because remember at the start of the race, I think his pace was a little bit stronger. He was doing mid-33s even, so I think he has just dialed the pace back a little bit to make sure he doesn't have those incidents, and that's going to be the key, because if he can just keep doing this pace, he'll at least match Benefield, and with the gap as it is, he's got the advantage. But of course, Benefield, keeping in mind he does have to do that shorter stop at some point, so he will gain back later on in the race. So certainly not over, but Dane's pace is really, really good, and really the only thing stopping him is he has another one of those errors, and that's the thing that might cost him the most time here. But looking pretty good at the moment up front. Behind them, it looks like Riley Blythe's just pitted, just exiting pit lane a bit further down in the distant field at the moment. I think Christopher Norton and Dean Mole have gone around as well and pitted, I suspect. Let's just confirm that they have indeed just pitted, so they are there as well. Norton made the move on mile 2 a few laps ago, so I think that was up to effective P3 or 4 in class. So
just going to get a quick replay though of Northway and Bowen, as they had the Nissan come through up the inside. There's contact between Bowen and the Nissan of, I think, Brett Loxton. No, not sure who. Must have been. Not sure which one of the KRF Motorsport cars it was, because I can't work it out. But anyway, there's definitely contact though, and Bowen's dropped back behind Northway now, and that now means Northway is into 5th, Bowen back to 6th.
Yeah, for sure. It's looking like being a really
fascinating battle in the pits.
And there you go, Bowen in the pits as well. So we've got the Audis starting to execute their strategies as well. So Bowen about 50 minutes, so 50 minutes to the stint. So as you say, should work out pretty nicely for them as he leaves now. A very nice looking Audi. Paint scheme certainly works on that. And again, as per usual, really good to see a lot of really cool liveries out there on the various cars. Good to see everyone getting behind that, and getting their liveries nice and prettied up, despite obviously only being for effectively a one-off event, really. In these cars, still getting behind makes really quality liveries, which is great to see. So that's going to be something to look forward to over the course of the rest of the races, what liveries will be on offer. I'm sure it'll continue to show off these cars and the various cars in use in this series. But yeah, Dane, 8-second lead, or just under, 7.6. As Benefield actually pulled out at 33.8 during his first lap, so he's up the tempo a little bit here. And again, that'll be the thing, it'll be who breaks first, if either of them do. That's probably going to be the defining factor for this battle. But he's got the gap down to 5.9 seconds, so it took a good chunk out of Dane that lap. So yeah, it looks like this battle at the front is definitely not over yet.
I think it's going to be the first one that makes a big mistake out of these 2 lead cars. Ends up dropping back through the field. But going back to nice paint jobs and things like that, I'm actually disappointed, because I saw a picture of Bo Albert's car earlier in the week, and it had no headlights, frowny face on the windscreen banner, but he's changed that and just put his name on there. But I wish the no headlights frowny face was still on there, because those of you that don't know, Bo has a fascination with flashing headlights on iRacing. So is it a fascination or an obsession?
Thinking emoji. Sure. It could go either way, really. It could go either way.
It's sort of in between the two, isn't it?
Yeah. So I'll probably leave that to others to decide. But yeah, always on the flashies whenever they're available. Of course, the Audi doesn't have any lights, so can't do the flashies. So sad face for Bo, but doing pretty well so far. Been hanging just off the top 3. Looking on song to at least get top 5. He just keeps clean. We'll see how that plays out for him. Remember as well, Corey Preston going along, not too far ahead of Bo actually. Bo didn't end up too far behind him. I'm not sure how his strategy will be, because obviously with his damage, he's got to do an extra stop. Yeah,
Preston's strategy will be really interesting. Is just getting a CPR replay of James Kingsland spinning it into the bus stop. But yeah, Preston is half a stint out, so he's going to have to do a splash and dash with about 20 odd minutes to go. So you'd say he's out of contention in that battle for now. But then again, Preston loves nothing more than a hard race, so he'll battle as hard as he can, as change of position in the lead, because Karen Stantis is in the pits. Ashley Lear continues on for one more lap.
Yeah, so Dan joins Bowen pitting as well. We'll see where he comes out. And also a couple behind Bowen and Northwayne too. So
Just
bunch
thinking,
of the Audis bidding.
just thinking, Ashley, he stayed in behind and was quite happy to tuck in behind Carrick-on-Standish for a lot of that stint. That's going to get him an extra lap on fuel, purely based on the fact that he was fuel saving.
Yeah, that's probably his plan, hasn't he? Just thinking long term, and he might be able to do a shorter fill at the end, which could really gain that crucial second or two to maybe get him out of the traffic, and that's going to be key here. As we always see at Daytona, the fuel strategies really play a heavy part in how these races go. And Ashley, you've got to say, he's probably on the best one for now. And we'll see if that holds, though. Of course, it'll depend on how this race unfolds. But yeah, seems to be pulling it a bit longer than the rest of the Audis, thanks to being tucked in the slipstream for a good chunk of that stint. And yeah, it's going to really help him out later on in the race. So some good long-term sort of thinking from Ashley here.
Have a look at Torque Inc. What happens to the Torque Inc. team when someone in the team actually does some practice and setup work? Good things can happen. We're often the laughing stock of the community. I'll put my team hat on for a second. We're often the laughing stock of the community, knowing that we don't really practice and don't really care that we don't practice. Don't really care that we don't race. But Ash decided on, I think, Wednesday that he loves this car. And as I said before, he's right up on the leaderboard in the time attack. I think he's second in the world in this car. So definitely is one of the quicker drivers in this car. And the fact that there's a big race for it, he was always going to be out on track for it. And I wouldn't be surprised if the rest of the Talking team magically appear in 2 weeks' time for the Daytona 500.
Yeah, exactly right. Yeah, it's and that's another, I guess that's another good thing with this series. It does bring out maybe some drivers who don't usually drive as much as they maybe used to, or just don't drive as much as others do, and kind of draw them out with these unique combos and unique cars that are being used, which is a very cool feature. So yeah, should be a really interesting event, that next one. I'll certainly have, as I said, I'll have a go. Probably not expecting to go too well because plate racing is probably one of my weakest forms of racing that I've done, to be honest. So I'm not expecting miracles, but as we know with the way that all works, bless you, Jay, as we know with the way plate racing is, it's all about the last bit, isn't it? As long as you're there, in the region in the last kind of 10-15 laps, then that's all that matters. And you can end up getting a win out of nowhere. So that's probably what it's going to be like. So I guess that's probably going to be the aim I'll try and do.
Just, get yourself at the back of the pack. Don't drop from the leader. Make sure you pit with at least 2 other cars. That's your strategy.
Exactly. Yeah. Have someone slipstream.
Yeah. I'm speaking as a former Daytona 500 race winner. Jeez, how many times have I said that?
You're gonna.
I'm living with that one moment, but I think someone said it in the Bathurst 12-hour coverage. You're not a former winner; you're just a winner.
Yeah, exactly.
As soon as you win a big race, you're a winner. You're not a former winner or an ex-winner. You're a winner of that race.
Yep.
So I'm going to live with that forever. As we're going back to the battle between 5th and 6th in the Audi class, they've come out of the pit. Sorry, 6th and 7th it is, between Shane Bowen and Robert Northway. They've both been in, made their stops, and come out nose to tail once again.
Yeah, and that battle's been going on for most of this race. They've been pretty much line and stern since the very start of this one. So the battle's been continuing. Very nice Castrol-looking car there for Northway as well. Very nice livery there in the old Audis. So it kind of suits them. It reminds me a bit of the Tom Supra, of course, the Supra GT500 car. Very much looks similar to that. It's obviously a bit more of a wide boy sort of version, but still a lot of similarities there. But he's having the run and get the position down through NASCAR 1 and 2. See where he has a look at the bus stop. I get the feeling he might hold back, although I'm feeling they need to go defensive there with the 61 car, but no, it looks like Robert's just going to hold back for now. That's probably the way to go. They're probably trying to just sort of work together to keep themselves clear of the any trouble behind, and see if they can maybe gain on the cars ahead. Especially, as I said, the Audi being a little bit slower than the Nissan, the slipstream is a bit more effective, I think, as Australian than the Nissan. So you'll probably see this a lot for the Audi class in this kind of phase of the race, through to probably about 20-30 minutes to go when they might start really going for it in the last phase.
They probably won't be so cautious about being that lead car into turn 1, or not really caring too much if they're in the lead or in the tail. A lot of 2-car groups throughout the Audi class and not really fighting at all either. They're just sort of staying nose to tail as we're just getting a replay. Brett Trozen having yet another spin. He hasn't had a fantastic race, has he? But Ashley, 4 seconds gap, first to second in the Audi class.
Yeah, it's looking good for Dan at the for Dan at the moment. It's just got that little gap to Ashley, which hopefully for him is going to help him just steer clear of him. Although Ashley, as you said, we know how quick he is in these cars, so every chance he can catch back up to Dan. But good battle I noticed as well.
I was just going to say, issues for Dane Warren as he come into the bus stop with a car stopped in the middle of the bus stop ahead of him. I think it was James Kingsland. Nah, that would have been heart attack moment stuff for our race leader in Dane Warren. He somehow got through unscathed, but we'll get a CPR replay and pick up exactly what happened.
Yeah, indeed. We'll see if we can have a look there for you on the replay.
Lucky. That was very, very lucky for Warren.
Always come across a car stricken at the bus stop. It's always like, yeah, you're right. He wanted to get close there. Credit to the Nissan though. I think he was looking to back out and try and recover. It looks like he thankfully saw Dane coming and didn't keep reversing and actually rejoined pretty smartly too. So good stuff there from James. Very smart rejoin and managed to avoid causing any major issues, which is good to see. But the gap down to 4.5 seconds. So Benefield has been working away and trying to catch back up to Dane. But at the moment, Dane's probably just got that edge. But we'll see if that changes over the course of the stint. Burns still sitting on his own now in third spot. Got a pretty sizable gap, about 20 seconds up to Benefield. They've got about, so I know he just pitted, hasn't he?
He's just come out of the pits actually, just ahead of Corey Ott and Jake Fox, who are in a pretty intense battle between Fox and Ott at the moment.
They're all very close actually, and that from about third down to 5th, 6th, 7th even in the Nissans are all very close in terms of gaps. So there's some good close little battles developing in the midfield of the Nissans. I've been noticing as well Riley Blythe trying to work away, and he's actually already passed Jake Fox. Must have done that about a lap or so ago.
Burns back into the pit. So Burns has come in 2 consecutive laps. That's strange. Wondering if he's got a penalty coming out of the pits.
Possibly, yeah. Let's have a look here. We'll see if he stops in his box, then it's not. But if he keeps going through, then it's a penalty. It's looking like, no, in the box. Okay, so...
I'm wondering if it's an iRacing stop and go, though.
Yeah, it's a good call, yeah. Well, it looks like, no, not going on the Jackson, yeah. Looks like you might be right, yeah. Looks like maybe a 5-second, yeah, stop and hold. So, bit of a shame there for Burns. Puts him down the lap now, so he's lost a good chunk of time there. But, still a good hour 24 or so to go. So we're an hour into this race now, just ticked over now. So still a good chunk of this race to go, and plenty of time to make that back and capitalise off other people's errors.
He is starting to lose a lot of time. He's now up to 7 seconds between he and Karakonstantis in the lead. So Lear dropping from second position. Gap second to first is growing and growing quite quickly. Karakonstantis now well and truly in control of the Audi race, but the Nissan race stabilising, isn't it? It's almost like they're punching lap times back against each other. Last lap, Warren was quicker by 4/10. The lap before, Benefield was quicker by 4/10. They're just alternating that gap at the moment, aren't they?
Yeah, they're just trading lap times. That's what you expect from drivers of their quality. Obviously, Benefield and Warren, both very, very quick drivers. And pretty much every car they drive, they're at least competitive in pretty much everything I've seen them race. So not surprising to see 2 drivers of their quality lapping at this pace and consistently lapping at that pace. But yeah, Dane showing some solid pace, but Benefield's really upped it in the race trim, I guess. Dane, although it's kind of not surprising as well. Oh, Scott Larnax just disconnected from P5. I'll also go back and find out he was in the pits. So he just pulled over. Oh, and called it quits apparently. I'm just trying to see if there's an incident anywhere. So it looks like he's going along. I have had a moment with a Nissan actually. Unfortunately, lags out at my end. He suddenly had damage after I lagged out. And yeah, that side of that car was very, very bent up. So I'm guessing he's had an incident like this. By the looks of it. Pulled over the side. Just trying to see if his steering was damaged.
Oh, actually, there's an incident with he and one of the Audis, the 203. The 308 Audi of James McLeod. Adam McLeod. And that has put Larnack probably with too much damage to continue on. Into turn 1 is the incident.
Wow. Good moment there. So that's one of our key players out of this one. Obviously, again, Larnack's another one who's generally quite handy in most cars that he drives, and showing it again in the Nissan. So real shame for Scott. It's the way it goes in these races. As I said, it is an enduro of sorts, but it's kind of a long sprint as well. It's how these guys are probably driving it anyway. Obviously, if you get any major damage, then unfortunately it is, as I say, it is a bit of a longer race, but it's still not quite long enough that if you get that major damage, you can probably recover from it, which is why you see these guys after they get a major hit retiring from the race, because they just know that they won't have the time to make back the time they're going to lose with the repairs. So it's a bit of a shame, but such as the racing around here, and especially in these cars, it can have those issues. But still got some good battles going on in both fields. It's about 4 seconds between Naunton and Mole. I think Naunton's starting to slowly gallop away. One of the guys has been really impressive so far. Started P8, and his race pace has been really super solid. So he's pumping in really good laps, finding his way through the field, and currently on for a podium if he keeps this up with some handy gaps behind. So
and how cool is the livery on it too?
Yeah, I noticed that too. It's very much, it
the old
stands
school,
out.
old school. It reminds me of watching the 1960s Batman TV shows and Dick Tracy and all those old superhero shows from the 60s, 70s, 80s with the logos on it. So pretty cool looking car.
For sure, yeah, certainly stands out, that's for sure, in this field of Nissans. So, and yeah, suits it well, as you say, with just the way the car is. It's a very retro looking car, for sure. You can definitely tell where it's from, and good to see a livery sort of matching that from Christopher. But he's doing a solid pace, low 35s generally seems to be the laps he's pumping in, but he's not pumping them in consistently, which is the key, sort of mid to low 35s, and that's going to really help him to just steer clear of everyone behind and keep himself in the shadow of podium. Battle at the front continues to ebb and flow. Again, Benefield was quicker last time by about 5 or 6 tenths. We'll see what the gap's like this time round. I imagine Dane...
It's up to 6 seconds now.
Yeah.
So Warren did punch out, not the last lap, but the lap previous. He punched out an absolutely blitzing lap time back into the low 34s. Benefield did a 35. This lap there, they've just crossed the line with pretty much identical lap times. But we're with the battle between Shane Bowen and Robert Northway. Once again, Northway looking to get through, but not quite able to do it. He just doesn't quite get the run out of the bus stop to get a run over the start-finish line and into turn one.
Yeah, it's a very close battle here in the sort of high end of the midfield in the Audis. And, they've been going at it since pretty much the start of this race. And Northway has been very patient so far. They do have a fairly decent gap back up to John King ahead of them, so they're not really quite within range to do much about him. But they're still plugging away, trying to do some good laps between the two of them. Here comes Northway once again, but again he pulls out. Probably once again just trying to save some fuel and maybe have a bit of a short stop. Oops, there's a spin right in front of them. Oh, and that's the same Nissan again. King's going around once more. And he's going to have to rejoin at some point. Unless he's going to call it quits. We'll soon see. No, he's going to rejoin. Nope, not too bad. Riley Blythe does turn up as he's redressing, but thankfully Kingsland pretty smartly gets out of the way nice and quick. So credit to James on that. But yeah, a bit of a moment there for those guys. But
it's scary in these cars when you have a big moment like that ahead of you, because they are so hard to control. They are so on the edge all the time. If you have someone have a moment ahead of you, you often don't have time to react or aren't able to react to it, or if you do, that puts you in the fence. So you've got to be really cautious about that. So good driving for those guys to avoid that, and they're continuing on. They've actually split a bit of a gap with Bowen. Northway would have had to check up for a slowdown penalty, but just ahead, 4th and 5th, Bo Albert under some pressure from John King right now.
Yeah, he's looking like he's on the ball at the moment. Looking very threatening in that battle for P4. Corey Preston has jumped them for now, but as we say, he's a bit of a funky fuel strategy throughout this race. But yeah, Bo just not quite got the pace at the moment. He's struggling a little bit, it would seem. He's generally doing 44s, 43s, but he's a little bit up and down on pace. I think he's just struggling to get into a nice groove with the Audi, and that's really helping John King, who's been very consistently doing 43s and 42s most of this race. Been very nice on the pace and consistency from John. So he's doing a good effort from 31st overall on the grid, so midfield of the Audis. He's already come up 10 spots, both come up 12 to be fair as well, so they're both really advanced through the field. But you've got to say, John looking the stronger of the two for now, the number 6 machine. You wouldn't be surprised if there's a move made very soon, I would say.
You might see it now, because have a look at the run King has got coming into turn one. He got out of the throttle early into the bus stop. This time not going to do that, because there's no Nissans around, and through goes John King now into 4th position Saying that, Albert almost able to come back through the exit of turn 1. But King now holding on to 4th position as we are almost at the halfway point in this race. I said before, it's an endurance race, but it really feels like and behaves like a sprint race, doesn't it?
Yeah, kind of like the Raw did as well. Raw obviously was very similar, being the same length as well, but in different class cars. But it was a very similar feeling. It very much played out like a longer sprint race more than an enduro. So that's how they tend to drive in these events, and that kind of shows sometimes in what we see. But there is certainly some strategies going on, as we mentioned. Plenty of the Audis are using the slipstream, knowing when to pass and when not to. So we're seeing plenty of that throughout the Audi field. Which is something to keep an eye on, as I mentioned with the Nissans, the way they drive, it's not as effective, and that's why we're not really seeing that too much. As I've just noticed, actually, Benefield has got to the lead, and Dane's just had a very slow lap all of a sudden, so I'm guessing that he's had a moment somewhere. And I wonder if it's the bus stop again. I'm just going to go back and have a look here. Yeah, it was. Yep, there it was again. Yep, and he had to actually, he had to let people by, which is why he was a bit slow to get going. He had to wait for some traffic to get through. And yet again, same moment. He's done that about 2 or 3 times now this race. He's just got a little too early on the throttle, got a little wiggle on the back end of the car, and then spinned off. Good stuff from him though. He handled that very well. Locked the tyres very quickly, so he didn't start drifting back onto the track and get drilled. And he's just had to do about a 3 or 4 point turn to get it going again. That's cost him a lot of time. So that has put Benefield in the lead, and that's what we mentioned. That's the key, really. Unfortunately for these guys, it's who's making the least amount of mistakes. And at the moment, that's Benefield. He's just been quick enough, but consistent. That's been his big thing so far. Really consistently pumping in solid laps, and that's what's keeping him ahead. And actually, I noticed Christopher Norton is doing some pretty good pace too. 34 was pretty nice.
Low 34s too, isn't he?
Yeah, his pace seems to be picking up. He just seems to be getting more and more comfortable in the car as this race wears on. And very sort of stealthy, one of the drivers. You haven't really probably seen him too much because he hasn't been into too many battles. I did have a battle with Larnack earlier on, but other than that, he's generally just been plodding along, keeping it nice and clean, and really showing how it's done. So it's a lot of the field here, which is, if you just play patient, play smart, play consistent, you're going to be there when the race gets towards its final conclusion. So really good stuff from Christopher. As I mentioned, he started P8, it's up to P3, so a really strong race from him, and looking on song to be in the podium positions if he can keep this pace up.
Yeah, one thing about this series too is the amount of practice that guys do really shows, I feel, and guys that might have only just done the 30 laps of minimum practice just to clear it, and that's all they've done. This point of the race now is where that starts to show. You've got other drivers that have done over 800 laps in practice in this race, or for this race I should say. So the guys that haven't quite prepared as much as others, the unprepared ones are now really starting to show with those little bit of mistakes, a few little bizarre mistakes starting to creep in, and the lazy spins and the like now. So really starting to put pressure on some of these drivers.
Yeah, for sure, and it's in that middle phase. We're pretty much bang on halfway, or about a minute away from halfway through this race, and it's in this middle phase of the race, a bit like when you're in a multi-driver enduro, like a 6 hour plus race. It's a very similar thing when you get to that middle phase of a stint. It's just that moment when you're in the rhythm of the car. It's not quite, still a good distance to the end, and it's probably the real danger zone outside of when you very first step in the car. You start to get in that groove, and you can start to just kind of lapse a little bit too much. You just kind of get in the groove a little bit too much. And that's when those sort of silly little errors can creep in, because you're not really thinking, you're just going through the motions, just going, off the groove. And when you get in that mode, you can sometimes find yourself making those really just sort of arbitrary errors that you otherwise wouldn't make just because of the scenario. And especially again in cars like the Audi and the Nissan, those sorts of silly errors are generally not very light. They're not going to be very forgiving for little moments like that. So that's why it's probably enhanced as Corey Ott. Oh, nearly spins into the wall on the transition. I just happen to be watching him on the cameras, and he's nearly put into the fence on the entry to the oval. He managed to just stop it before it hit the wall. But again, I was explaining, he just got the throttle a little bit too soon. It's really easy to do out of that corner because obviously it's so bumpy, it's off camber. It's difficult at the best of times in something like a GT3 or a GTE. So in one of these cars, it's a real challenging corner. It's so easy to get spun up and spin off from the wall or down into the infield. So really good stuff there from Corey to keep out of the wall, but that has lost him a bit of time. And I think Hasn't actually lost him a position. He stayed where he was, but it has lost him time to the cars around him. Actually, he lost a spot, sorry, to Hinton there. So he did lose a spot of that, but he's still P7 in the Nissans.
Go back to this battle for 4th and 5th in our Audi class between Bo Albert and John King. Since King got through, Albert has just stuck right on the rear of that Audi. So Albert now doing that strategy or playing that game that we've been seeing from a few of the guys that are happy to just tuck in behind and save fuel, especially as we come up towards this last pit stop. We're not far off the pit window opening for the Audi cars. So we'll be interested to see who pits first and how they go with these pit stops.
Yeah, for sure, and we'll see how that shakes out the Audi field. As we say, it's got a little bit strung out, as it always tends to. The lower classes tend to get strung out a bit when the fast classes come through and split up the various battle packs that form the very start of these races. So we're at that phase with the Audis, but there are still some great battles throughout. Dan still leading the way, number 294 Machine, with a nice gap back to Ashley Lear, who's still hanging there or thereabouts, but Dan really pumping in the solid laps and keeping Ashley at bay for now. It's got to be around about 5 or 6 seconds thereabouts, so it's not very much, but it's enough at the moment. He's just going to work away at that gap and just keep Ashley at arm's length so that he can't feed off his slipstream. Corey Preston is just behind them, but I think he's just pitting now. He is indeed. So Corey in for his second stop, so we'll see how, as we mentioned, his sort of funky strategy plays out. Kind of forced into it after he had that moment earlier on, which caused damage and had to pit for repairs. And since found himself in a bit of an awkward scenario strategy-wise. You see the wheels spinning there on the jacks, although only the rear wheels, which would be how it is, I would imagine, being four-wheel drive. But anyway, but either the case, Bowen still ahead of Northway as they go past Preston now, as he's in the pits, and Bowen again still just holding station. So, happy to just feed off Bowen's slipstream for now. That battle is a really interesting one to watch. It's about that far off the top four, really. They're thereabouts, so if they keep plugging away, they might have a chance of going, although Bowen feeling they need to go a bit defensive there into the hairpin. I'm not sure why. Northway's not really made any indication that he's wanting to pass him at the moment, but either way, they're still plugging away in there. Nice little battle. Trevor Max just behind them. I think effectively, Sheridan's actually just pitted as well, so he's on a similar strategy to Preston would seem in that number 5 outing.
Interesting to see what happens between Bowen and Northway when it comes time for this final stop too, because Northway has been tucked in behind that 61 Audi for a large portion of this race. Has he been able to save enough fuel to possibly jump in at the pit stop?
Well, that'll be the plan, won't it? We're hoping he needs less fuel and he can just jump in effectively through the fuel stop because of the way that goes. I did, just speaking of fuel and strategy with that and less time in the pits, one thing that always I got to laugh at of anyone who knows the Kia Optima and how it works. Probably know what I'm meaning. So I'll talk about this, but when the Raw for the 24 was on, obviously the Kia Optima was one of the cars used. Obviously, you know how that car works, and because of the category it's basically the car was modeled off. The fuel refill rate is tremendously slow, and so the pit stops are generally, or for the Raw 424, it was about a minute and a half or something for the pit stop, something crazy like that. And one thing that I did see while watching one of our own residents, V8's Online members, Reece Gardner, showed his, or recorded his view of that race. And he did show in the pit stops that they do the whole refuel thing, and then just like the real life series, when it got to a certain point, not quite full tank, but nearly about 90 litres of about 110 or so litres, in the real life they had to change the can to switch the fuel over to keep refilling, and in the sim, that's what happens as well. You see the fuel goes to about 90, it stops for about 1 or 2 seconds as it simulates the can change, and then keeps going, which is just something that I never realised, which is such a cool feature that I decided to put into the Kia. So, which is interesting because again, it's a car that you don't really see used very much outside of I think it's the D or C class series where it's used with the Cadillacs. It's sort of, you see it used every now and then, but even then it's not used very much because it's a very unique car. But it's you've got to give credit to IR for some late in that aspect as well.
I think that was the winning moment for some teams as well, that they actually realised that and decided that was the point that they were going to go out and use that shorter stop which was needed in that race. And we're not far off seeing who is going to do that shorter stop at the front of the Nissan field as well. Some guys will probably do that short splash and dash style stop at this pit stop, but Bo Albert versus John King is very, very fascinating. Is Albert going to be able to get through? I think he might. He's going to go into turn 1.
Yeah, it's looking like it's on, isn't it, for this battle in the field? And yep, look at that, King on Albert. Well, Albert on King, sorry. Gets it back on him. So, yeah, Albert finding some pace. I guess that's the slipstream really helping him to get that pace back, and maybe even learning some things off John too. As I mentioned, John's been really strong all race long, and just doing some really consistent, strong pace. So maybe Bo just learning a little bit from what he's been doing, and has been able to make the move again. And he's back through once more in that car, very pristine looking too. So credit to Bo on that. He's kept the car completely spotless so far. And, that's going to be a key thing for being there at the end of the race, as the battle at the front of the field continues to be a little spread apart in the Audi field. Dan's just been continuing to pull away. He actually pulled away pretty nicely, nearly 1.5 seconds in the last lap. A really strong lap from Dan, and Ashley struggling a bit there on that last lap, possibly some traffic playing into it as well. So some really interesting moments in the Audi field. It's all still relatively close to the top, and some great battles to watch out for there. And as we mentioned, it's going to be really interesting to see with the Nissans how the strategy plays out. I would imagine that Benefield should gain back some more time on Dane again, because he'll take the short fill towards the end of the race. So yeah, there's some really, really interesting strategies that are playing out all throughout the field. Some great battles still going on. Only the top 5 on the lead lap at the moment, because I think I may... Yep, well, didn't mean to catch this, but I accidentally did just catch Corey recovering from another spin out of the bus stop. Pretty much the exact same as what we've seen Dane do a couple of times. Someone threw a little bit too soon and round she went, so lost him a bit more time there for Corey. So yeah,
he'll pay for that too later, won't he? He'll be copying some flack from us.
Oh yeah,
for that. Yeah, just cut the final bit a little bit, didn't he?
Yeah, it's great for the best part for me is I can give him the flack being in the V8 Online team, and we're both in the same team on IR, so I can give it to him in 2 different lots, which is great. So he'll get plenty from me. Don't worry about that. And then if I manage to spin myself, he'll get plenty back. So I'm sure it'll go both ways if I do the same thing during the Pacific race. So.
Interesting. We're talking about. We actually got sent a little bit of driver profiles from Kinetic International, and John actually. A bit of an interesting story. Born in Liverpool, but lives in Malaysia. So he's based in Kuala Lumpur, but was from England and moved to Malaysia for work in 2001 and been there ever since. He's retired and staying there. So good luck to John actually being able to retire. So good to see him out on track and doing a good job.
Yeah, for sure. It reminds me whenever I should get around to clean that out. I'm the worst with that.
I know.
Yeah, I know I think we're both similar like that. I'm not very keen on the whole of that doing that sort of deal, so I just kind of ignored it and just went, no, I'm right. So I'll be a bit of a mystery on the GSRC broadcast, but that's the way I like it. So that's fine with me. So yeah, the battle still going on with Bo and John. They're still pretty close. John tagging along once again, seems to just mention him there. But yeah, Bo's picked up the pace. He seemed to have either learnt something from John, or maybe he's just pushing a bit harder than he was earlier on. Maybe seeing the gap in front, he wants to try and keep Ashley and Dan within range, but they have kind of galloped away a little bit. So I don't know if Bo and Co are going to be close enough. Really, it's all really pushing the limit of the brakes in the turn 1 there for Bo, but he keeps it together for now. Bowen and Northway aren't actually that far behind him. They're working together. Seems to be actually working quite well. They're doing consistent low to mid 43s, which is keeping them in touch for a potential podium berth if they can play this run.
Yeah, we saw as well, Alexander Sheridan got through on Trevor back into the bus stop, so Sheridan now up to 7th, Mac back to 8th. Not too much happening in the back end of the Audi field. Those top 8 spots are still up for grabs. Everything else is fairly settled and controlled. The Nissan pack is settled as well. Really going to come down to what happens in the pit stops to decide what's going to happen there. But the 3rd and 4th, 5th and 6th, 7th and 8th place battles in the Audi class, quite fascinating, all 3 of those battles, aren't they?
Yeah, there's some great battling in the Audi class all races, as we mentioned, with the way those cars play out. There's a lot of sort of ebb and flow with them being a little bit lower speed than the Nissans, you can actually use the slipstream to quite good effect. The Nissan's probably a little bit too fast to really use that as well, because generally it flows a bit too much to really use it to full effect. So Nissans, probably why they're also a little bit more spread out. Just the way the car is and the way the slipstream works, and then you can't really sit behind someone using that slipstream as effectively in Nissan. Either way, still some great battles in there as well, playing out throughout that field. Obviously Benefield's galloping in the lead at the moment. That's because he's on that different strategy today. We'll see how that plays out. Norton is still plodding along nicely in second, holding the gap, pretty much more or less the same. Benefield maybe just slowly gapping him a little bit every lap, though last lap was a touch quick 35 flat. Again, the pace is showing in race stream how strong he is around here in these cars. But Dane is pumping in some really quick laps here out of the pits. He's been doing low 34s every single lap, and I tell you what, he's got the eyes on. I think he knows that Benefield will probably a little bit shorter stop and gain a bit more time. He knows that now he needs to really push his roundabouts to start closing in on the last hour of this one.
Interesting to note the top speed of these cars. We obviously focused a lot on pace and speed in the Daytona 2.4 a couple of weekends ago. With the GT3 is probably about 260 odd k's per hour top speed, 265, maybe 270 depending on the aero. Because Warren has a little bit of trouble with Bowen there, almost contact. The Audis, being the slower class car, still doing 280 in the straight, and the Nissan's up to 305. So incredible pace these cars have. I'm absolutely dumbfounded at how these guys used to be able to drive these cars so quick and so intensely for 24 hours of racing. It's amazing to watch. Amazing to think back at how much we've evolved in a racing community.
Yeah, for sure. It really is crazy. Especially just not obviously just these, but the Group C's as well. Just that period of time. Obviously, it was that time when safety was a little bit less of a concern, and really they were just all just pushing the cars and the technology as far as they could go. There wasn't really concern of is it safe. It was just is it faster. If it was faster, then that's all that mattered. And it was obviously the same running 12 Group B's being completely crazy cars that they were doing the same sort of thing. So it was just that time in history where it all kind of came together, and then we got these just absolutely just crazy concoctions of cars that were raced for a time before obviously common sense kind of came in a little bit and reined it back in again. So but yeah, it's still great to see these cars down the track. It's great to see these kind of machines in the sims. Obviously, you've got these two here in IR. You've also got the Lotus 79, which is just as crazy bonkers as these things are in IR as well.
And we've got that coming up later on in the season too. We do the classic British Grand Prix, so that'll be good to watch and good to participate in.
Yeah, another car I haven't tried before, so another one I'll have to get used to. So that'll be a really interesting combo to try, but I'm very keen for it once again. But yeah, and same obviously other sims. You've got some of the old Group C's in Assetto Corsa and some older cars, so older like 60s F1 cars in R-Factor 2. All the different sims have a few samples of some of the older machines on offer, which is great to see. It's great to jump in them and just kind of at least get an idea. At least try and think to yourself, you've got a little bit of an idea of what it may have been like to drive these beasts around the track, whether being obviously in the virtual world or in the real world, but still gives you an idea of just how completely out of this world these things were, and probably the reason as well why the Nissan was obviously as successful as it was in the American scene. As quick as it was, reliable as well, and it's not really a one that this thing did dominate as much as it did when it was in
On board with Trevor Mack as he hunts down the rear of Alexander Sheridan. So Mack hasn't let Sheridan go when Sheridan went on through. So interesting to see if he can come back on and potentially get a move done once again.
Yep. Looking like that's back on against Ebbing. It's going both ways, isn't it? We see him make the move and the car behind just kind of tacks onto the back of them. Maybe learns a bit and then wants to get back through. So it's been interesting how that works out with the Audis again. When in Nissan's work, you don't really see that as much. But with the way the Audis are, that lower speed, you actually have a chance to learn a bit. As I see John King go off on the second hairpin on his own. Looks like he went deep in the corner.
Preston,
in fact, that's almost identical to Yeah, it has indeed. It's almost identical to the spin he had earlier on in that same corner. Same thing happened. The car just kind of drifted left a bit, or just drifted right a bit under braking. He had to counter-correct it, or correct the car and spin. So, bit of a moment, but again, kept it out of the wall, which is the key thing, and only really lost the one position, so nothing too major for him. So it does drop off the back of Bo and drop off the slipstream, which could be a bit of a key thing to think about with Bo, but really improving his pace here. Another low 43 last lap. He's just about matching Ashley, if not slightly faster every lap. Unfortunately, Dan at the front is just pumping out 42s every single lap, and the odd 43 here and there. He's just got that edge on the rest of the field in terms of pace at the same time. So he's just been slowly eking out that gap at the front. But so we've got plenty of battles further down the Audi field. As you mentioned, Sheridan and Mack are still pretty close together. And you've got Northway and Bowen still plodding along, still in each other's slipstream, trying to make that work to close up to the top four.
Yeah, the Nissan field fairly settled, probably about another 4 laps or so away from the next round of pit stops for the cars that are on that standard strategy. Benefield last lap just is another 134 and Warren 135. So Warren's losing a little bit of ground, probably too much at the moment for Warren to gain just on pace. But remember, he only has to stop once. Benefield has to stop twice. So it is not over, although it is going to be a tough ask for Warren to get back ahead of Benefield. But Christopher Norton is the one driver of the day for me, because he has just kept it clean, kept it out of trouble. It is the straightest looking car. As I just see a car go off the track just in front of him. That's Mark Noble in the KRF Motorsports car. Good to see Nobby out on track. Doesn't get to race too much these days, does Mr. Noble, and great to see him out there as he almost comes out ahead of Dane Warren. He's back out and going again.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. I think Chris really my pick so far as well. He's just been, that's why I mentioned him earlier, he's just really impressed me with how clean he's been. He's been lapping traffic really smartly as well, doing it too risky, which is shown in how clean the car is and how straight it is. He's just pumping in nice, solid laps, not doing anything too crazy, and there he is in second on for probably a podium at this point. So, yeah, really strong race from Norton. If he just keeps up for another 50 or so minutes, he'll probably have a podium in his hands, which from 8th on the grid, so a really strong result for him. So super stuff from him. The number 437 machine is obviously a long way to go. You know, these cars are, anything can happen. It does tend to whenever a multi-class is involved. As I'm sure, you know, if anyone watched the Bathurst 12 hour, probably saw how that can end when traffic gets involved.
Traffic
So,
can play a factor and change the absolute complexion of a race. So unfortunately, it showed today in the Bathurst 12 hour. Spoiler alert.
Indeed, yep. Spoiler alert incoming, but yeah.
In saying that, I don't think you really need a spoiler to say that a race can change due to traffic. I think that's just a commonplace of an endurance race, especially a 12 hour or a 24 hour race. And looking forward to the iRacing Bathurst 12 hour next weekend. That should be a lot of fun. I know that, believe it or not, the Talking team, my team, we are actually already preparing. How's that?
Wow.
We prepared for the Daytona 2.4. We prepared 2.5 hours before the race started. We decided that we were going to do it. I didn't say that, my teammates decided, and we've already decided that we're going to do it. So how's that? We're a week away as Robert Northway now goes through on Shane Bowen. So that's we've done a Christopher Norton in the pits. But yeah, a full week out from an endurance race. Our team has actually decided that we're going to do it. So
yeah, unbelievable! Wow, there you go. You're probably more organised than we are at the moment. I think. Yeah, I'm pretty sure we're doing it with a couple of cars. I think one entry got in GT3 and one in the Porker, which I do want to do. I want to do the Porker. I know it's going to be very difficult because of the way the car works. It's just going to be really challenging having the GT3s everywhere.
I think the hard thing for that car is that it's fairly even on pace.
Yeah, that's and well, it's mostly down the straights, down Conrod. It's actually I was actually pulling on the Mercs. So it's the problem becomes that you end up pulling on them in all the critical sections, but then you're obviously slower across the top because obviously less downforce. So I think there'll be a lot of
especially with the Porkers that probably are a bit aware and know what they're doing, there'll be a lot of sort of strategically letting GT3s go, either at the end of Conrod or at the end of the run up to turn 2. I think there'll be some Porkers kind of very strategically letting off and leave GT3s through rather than just keeping it all the time, like you normally would. You normally would just stay and hold your line, but the way the Porker works, it can't really do that, because if you do, you're probably going to end up holding a whole train of GT3s up, and that's just asking for trouble. So,
well, it's just asking to get fenced, isn't it, if you do that, holding a big group up.
It is.
Don't take too kindly to getting held up. Now, gap first to second, because Warren is now in second place with Norton pitting.
Yep.
70 seconds, or 69 and a half seconds. So we'll keep an eye on that after this next pit stop. As we said, Benefield has to pit twice. Warren only has to pit once.
Yeah, indeed. So probably have Benefield in pretty soon, I'd imagine. He should be on a pretty similar strategy to Norton, so should see him into the lane pretty shortly. We'll see how that plays out for Daniel. I'm not really sure. It's pretty difficult to pick. I think Dane's probably got the edge right now. He's got that pace going once again. He hasn't had a moment for a while, so he's been able to keep it clean so far this stint. And if he can just do that, then that's probably going to be what's going to get him back in this fight for the lead. So if Dane can just do effectively what he's been doing this stint, he's well on the way to, at the very least, being right there to challenge Benefield at the end. So he's looking a lot more comfortable for now, but we've seen how quickly it can all turn around with the Nissan. You can be going along absolutely fine, and all of a sudden the thing can just spear into the fence without much warning, just with the way this car works. So managing it well so far. They're doing consistent mid-40, 34s, sorry, most of this stint since he came out of the pits, lap 46. So been out for a while. You'd imagine the next stop's not too far away for him, that final stop. Before he goes into Benefield, is in. There you go. So Benefield is in the lane. So he...
I think he's going to hold the lead too, because Warren's only just coming out of the bus stop. So I'm going to say Benefield will be in front by about 10 or 12 seconds when he comes back out onto the track.
Yeah, yes, and you know, he's going to probably hold that lead that he has, or get back that lead that finally, after, I mean, how long's it been now since he had that spin? A good half an hour or so, and he'll have the lead back again. I think this is about the third time he's taken the lead back.
I bet Warren won't take the lead, no, he's going to be behind.
Oh, yeah, look at that. Benefield keeps the lead, and that's key. That is key, because as we mentioned, Benefield's going to have the shorter stop, you would say, for this last stop. So he should gain yet again in this final stop. So this could be very interesting. Another very, very inspired, let's put it one way, very inspired battle between Dane Warren and Daniel Benefield to bring this one home, which would be a really, really interesting way to bring this race to a conclusion. Mole in as well. Mole in the pits on that number 31 machine. Riley Blythe continuing away. Riley Blythe's another one going along too badly. He had a moment earlier on, but he's been keeping it clean since. And not too bad inside the top 10. Like he's has to pit as well, so he's not effectively top 5, but he's looking not too bad. The car's looking pretty straight too, which, as we meant, it's always a good sign in these Enduro style races.
Yeah, after lap 1, he come in to get that quick repair done straight away. So he got into the fresh car and back out there. So he's a full pit stop behind everyone else. And you take that out, and he's pretty much right there with these guys at the front, isn't he? His pace is really good. So unfortunate that he got involved in some lap 1 shenanigans, which always happens in these sort of races. You can't not have that happen because it's just a factor in these endurance races. So unfortunate for him. He was the one that was involved, but if it wasn't him, it would have been someone else.
He's having to try and get around this. Oh, very close there. That was a very late move down from Riley, but I managed to get through A-OK. Always a bit tricky, that too, because sometimes some cars won't stay low, or they'll sort of be a little unpredictable with their movements, and that's always when you can cause some dramas if you go 3 wide unexpectedly or have to suddenly change pretty unexpectedly. Remembering with the Nissans as well, they're very sensitive at high speed. The steering is super sensitive at high speed, so you basically move the wheel maybe 5 degrees, if that, and it'll turn pretty severely at high speeds. So something to keep in mind with the way this Nissan drives once it gets up to those high speeds, which again kind of shows that huge amount of downforce the car has. I really do quite enjoy the car. I really wish it was driven one, I really do. Anyway, there's a goal for IR. Make the Nissan and the Audi more popular again, since they obviously get back to the hype, I think is what I'm saying. Let's go back to the hype again.
Bring back the hype. In saying that, I think this race has had a lot of hype around it, hasn't it? This whole series has had a whole heap of hype worldwide. With obviously us, Race Spot, LSR TV, and also GSRC getting behind it. It truly, majors is the absolute appropriate word for this series, because it is a huge series and huge organisation going on behind the scenes. So it's great that it's finally here, and I think the race has played out exactly as we expected, with some drivers underprepared, not having as great a run as they would like, some drivers unfortunately involved in some incidents, and some drivers that are really surprising us. I think Christopher Norton is our biggest surprise. He's doing a great job.
Yeah, again, we've sung the praises of Christopher, but it really is very much deserved. As I say, he really has been probably the cleanest driver I've seen. I haven't seen him make a single error. I haven't seen him have a spin. Every time I come across and look at him on camera, he's always been very smart with traffic. So showing how it's done, really has been showing how it's done in that 437 machine. And it shows that even if you don't have the pace leaders, because his pace is very good and it keeps improving, but it's still not quite there with Warren and Benefield, but it's still enough to just keep him there. That's a lot of time with enduro is what it's about, just doing those consistently solid laps and being able to pump them out lap after lap after lap after lap. And if you can look after the car, be good on the tyres, and even be good on fuel too, then you're in really good stead for enduros. And that's sort of what he's showing right now, just showing that sort of style of driving and just how much it can help you in these races. Again, it might not be the most exciting way of driving. It's still not the most exciting way when you're looking at it from a spectator's point of view, but from his own race, it's a really, really good way to go about it. It's really showing the rest of these Nissans how it's done.
Eric Constantis has come into the pits to take service for his stop. So he is now dropping back to third because Ashley and John King have stayed out. Robert Northway also staying out, but Bo Albert has come in.
Yes, indeed. Yep, he's sitting still in that fight for the podium with John and King. Again, should be his final stop for the race, so should be good to get home from here in the number, 06 machine. And we'll see how he can go in that battle with John. As he mentioned, John looked pretty clearly the stronger driver earlier on, but it looks like Bo's just picked up the tempo a little bit, and all of a sudden John's not looking as strong as he did before. Also, just noticing there is a change in the battle between Northway and Bowen. Northway suddenly quite a ways ahead of Bowen, but it's not enough to be a pit stop, so I'm not sure what's happened there. I'm guessing Bowen's had an incident or a spin somewhere. He's all of a sudden dropped a long way off the back.
15 seconds. So.
Yeah. Oh, actually, hang on. No, he pitted lap 53, but it looks like 2 minutes to stop, so I'm guessing he pitted early. Okay, so it was a pit stop then.
No, maybe not.
No, yeah. I'm just looking at it. No, that's a weird one. Let's go back and have a look. I'll see if I can find out. But that's a strange one. Something's happened, that's for sure. It's cost him a lot of time. Yeah, it looks like he was behind. Looks like Northway did pass him on one of those laps. So Northway did get behind. I'm just going through trying to see where this incident happened. Something definitely happened on that lap. I wonder if there's a Nissan maybe that's giving a bit of a rub or something like that. Let's have a look. It's the bus stop. Oh, yep. Looks like indeed that might be what it is. Looks like a Nissan coming in behind. Oh, he's lost on his own. Okay. Ooh, half spun on his own as the Nissan was coming up behind him. Oh, and he's had to do a reverse to try and get it back. So again, four-wheel drive, it's exactly easy to just click spin these Audis. And unfortunately, he had to do a bit of a reverse and continue, and it's cost him a good 10-15 seconds. So that's what happened there. So that's why that battle.
I think a battle for the lead though. It is on. Benefield and Warren, it is on.
Yep.
Pit stops are going to be a big factor in how this battle plays out, but Dane Warren now right behind Daniel Benefield for this race lead.
Oh,
Benefield with a big advantage. Warren is well and truly on it. Last lap a 34.2 versus a 35.3 for Benefield. So Warren on a charge. He's got nothing to lose. He's got to try and gain as much time as he can to even pass Christopher Norton, who is effectively ahead of him based on pit stop strategies, but it's a very big but. Oh, as he runs very, very deep.
Wide, yeah.
Oh, and there's a car in the fence just behind as well.
Oh, is that Blythe? Oh, Blythe going slowly out of the hairpin.
I reckon he's blown up.
Yeah, it looks like, yeah. That looks like a blow up to me too. Let me have a look. Oh, yep, there it was. So that's what the crash was. It was him blowing up into the hairpin. Yeah, he's just downshifted a bit too hard, and the car's just gone up and out. And that's again, another thing to remember with these cars is they're 80s machines. The reliability isn't quite there like it is with the modern machines. They are quite fragile monsters, really, these Nissans. And unfortunately, Riley looks like he's found out. That's a real shame because he was on to have a really solid result here today. or here tonight, and unfortunately it looks like that's come to an end with that engine failure. So yeah, real shame for Riley, but as I mentioned, the way these cars are, it's really easy to do that. I'll admit in practice, I've done it once in practice. I've blown on the engines as well, and something I'll be keeping a very close eye on throughout the race, because it's very easy to accidentally just flip the throttle that little bit too much on a downshift, and all of a sudden the engine just gives up the ghost and it's all over. So it's very, very easy to do in these Nissans, and something drivers are going to keep an eye on. I'm actually kind of surprised we haven't seen more, to be honest. I'm surprised that's the first engine failure we've seen on the Nissans, because it really is quite easy to accidentally over-rev them the way the engines are.
Warren's got back behind Benefield once again after that little bit of a mistake, so Benefield's responding with some pretty good lap times, and as we were saying, he's effectively ahead based on this strategy, because he does have the splash and dash stop to come, probably with about 6 or 7 laps to go. So Warren probably going to go another 15, maybe 11 laps before he'll be in, make his final stop. So that'll give us about half an hour of racing for Warren on this last tank, but only about 10 minutes or so for Benefield.
Yeah, definitely. It's all going to close up really interestingly, and as we mentioned, because he's got that advantage in the pit stops, it's not really clear where they will be. As I say, Dan will have the shorter stop of the two, so you would think that he'll gain a good chunk of time. And remember that it is about 120 litres from memory that the Nissans take on board, and if you can gain about, say, 10-15 minutes on track time for the fuel, that's going to be a really nice chunk of time that he's going to take out of his pit stops. So we'll see how it goes for Dan, but it may be crucial because his pace is solid enough. It's there or thereabouts. He's not hemorrhaging time to Dane. It's just when Dane's on song, he just has that edge. So if Dan can gain a good 10-15 second stop, and that's probably enough to keep him ahead, really.
Well, Benefield's just been more consistent, hasn't he, in this whole race? As Ashley comes into the pits for his final stop, then Karakonstantis comes through and retakes the effective lead in the class. Lear pulls away. I think that gap's going to close a little bit, though. Lear was about 6 seconds quicker in the stop due to that first stint where he was able to save a little bit of fuel. The second stint, not quite able to, and he's gained around about 6 seconds in the stop.
Yeah, it's really interesting to see again that play out with the strategy with the fuel, seeing people gaining a bunch of time that way. Obviously, with being able to sit in someone's slipstream and save fuel that way is really key, especially around Daytona. Of course, you've got some very long braking zones, especially, of course, with some bus stop. It's pretty long and juicy braking points there to just lift and coast to do a big amount of fuel saving. Really help you a lot in the pit stop, especially if you're in a very close battle and you want to try and break the slipstream of the car that you're battling. It's really handy to be able to fuel save, have that shorter stop, have a nice in lap, nice out lap, and then be clear of it by maybe 2 or 3 seconds. That can be enough to get you away from them down the road and effectively hold that position. So it's always very interesting to see that aspect play out. No matter what endurance you do, it's always a factor of that style of racing. We've seen that once again here tonight as Sheridan is leaving the pits now.
Warren's going to pass, though. Warren, is he going to be able to get past Benefield?
No. I think that Nissan there on the outside kind of balked them there. They couldn't quite go side by side. He's looking keen, isn't he? Warren's been really on it this stint, really pushing hard. And looking outside, probably could have had a little bit of a cheeky look there, but just thinking not quite close enough to have a look. To be fair, it's a bit deceptive in there. He can really chuck it in. He kind of can, but the car being low speed, it becomes a lot more cumbersome. That downforce obviously not there. It doesn't have the electric aids that modern prototypes have. So at the slow speed, it really does become quite a pig. You've really got to nurse around the corners. That's why you see there, they're really nursing it very easy on the throttle. Then you can get to it once you get the turbo boost right about in that area where you need it to get a good run without spinning out. And they're finding that out now with Benefield holding for now. Oh, there's a spin in front of them. Oh, hello. Who was that?
Loxton on the 8th position. Tries to regain it. That was a very awkward spot. That's hurt Warren's run to get this potential move done, because I think Warren would have been close enough, but he did get out of the throttle a little bit to try and get something, or potentially have to yield, depending on where that car was going. You would have seen smoke and got out of it. But no harm done in the end. Loxton's lost a spot to Jake Fox, but hasn't hit the wall, which is a positive. But this battle for second and first is well and truly on.
Yeah, definitely. It's really closed up nicely in the last 37 or so minutes of this race. So about to enter the last half an hour of this one. And once again, on this and on the outside, kind of Rex Warren's run, and he can't have a look down the inside there on this particular occasion. But you can see Dane definitely quicker than Daniel. But it'd be really crucial for Daniel's race if he can actually try and hold Dane behind him, because if he can, he's going to effectively get probably a good, you would expect something like 8 seconds or more, depending on how much difference their pit stop time or when they're pitting is. We'll sort of determine how that gap, whether it changes too much or not, but you'd think he'll get a good chunk either way. So if he can just keep Dane behind, he's going to effectively gain pretty much the most time he can. As Warren again getting a bit squirrely out of the second hairpin, going Audi on the inside here. It's going to make things a bit awkward for Dane, or he's going to have to go around the outside, and that's going to wreck his run again. Once again, he's kind of been balked out of having a go at Daniel, and that's just the way this works, as we mentioned with multi-class. It really does ebb and flow, even when they're nose to tail. You get a traffic at the wrong time, the first car gets past, the second car has to wait like Dane did there. All of a sudden the gap's back out to a second, he's got to close back in again, there's another traffic, he walks to the lead car this time, maybe gives the second one a chance to pass. It's always, as you say, it's always quite a lot of luck involved with getting the traffic at the right time. So Dane's gone! Again! That's almost a carbon copy. I think that's probably the third time he spun the exact same way out of the bus stop, and again, it's cost him dearly here.
Oh, that's heartbreaking for Warren. I was going to say he should almost think about pitting now to get himself out of the cycle and get himself out into some fresh air. And I wouldn't be surprised if he does that now, because it's going to be tough for him to get the time up. Needs to get himself, and he is in the pit. So, yeah, a disappointing way for that battle to end, as Benefield, probably as it stands right now, deserves this race based on consistency. He might not have had the same pace in regards to fastest lap times, in saying that he has done the fastest lap of the race. But, no, sorry, Warren has, but only by 4/10. But Benefield has been so much more consistent than Warren in this race.
Yeah, he really has, and that's what's been keeping him up ahead. As I mentioned, it really is a very, very important skill with endurance racing. It's great to be pacey and to have that lightning bolt pace over a lap, but if you can't consistently deliver that, then it's not really going to mean much. And in endurance especially, you're better off being in that a little bit slower, but being able to pump out solid laps, than being really quick, but then having those moments like Dane's had throughout this race. It just ends up costing you more time than you gain from having that slightly faster pace. So Daniel really showing that consistency again. Same with Norton as well.
Here we go, Norton and Warren.
Oh, here we go, yeah.
So Warren's just come out from his stop just ahead of Norton. Norton's going to be the loser out of this, though, because he still has that that last stop to go, that splash and dash stop to go. So we have about 23 odd laps in this race. They're only getting 30 laps to a stint, so he's probably got to pit with about 4 or 5 to go.
Indeed, and then we'll probably get to see where that effective gap is. If it's a good 4 or 5 laps, that's probably a good, from memory, I'm trying to remember the fuel burn and I can't, but I think it's probably something like 12 to 15 litres, and that's probably going to end up giving him, I'd say, around 3 or 4 seconds or more potentially advantage. So not as much as I was thinking, but it's still a pretty crucial gap to gain on Dane, and that means he's still got to close that back in, which means he wastes more time having to just close the gap, which he otherwise could be spending trying to pass him. So it's just going to make that job a bit easier for Daniel to hold the lead this race.
Norton's had a massive
moment. Oh, he's gone. Oh.
Into the bus stop.
That's the first mistake we've seen from him too, so having to recover with some Nissans around him. They managed to recover well, but yeah, I think it's the first major error we've seen from Christopher. It looks like, yeah, it looks like a bit of a traffic issue, really. It looks like he thought he was going to be able to go around the outside of the Audi in front of him, and the Audi is kind of there on the apex. He's had to brake a bit more than he wanted to, and when you do that in these kind of cars, the rear end becomes really, really light. You can turn around very quickly, and that's what he found there in that moment. I mean, again, kept it out of trouble, kept it out of the wall and the contact, so credit to just from that. So he stays in the race, and probably effectively doesn't lose much, because he's in a nice little bubble of his own in third. So yeah, gets away with that one relatively scot-free, considering.
Now, the other main battle that we were watching before the pit stops was between Robert Northway and Shane Bowen. They've both made their final stops. And Northway has ended up with around about a 15-second gap in the end over Bowen. We said before there was an incident with Bowen, but he wasn't able to gain any time back after the stops. We just see Jake Fox off at the exit of the bus stop. He was going again. Carbon copy of Dane Warren's Spinneroonie. No,
We're gonna toss up the sayings, don't we, Joe? We're
I
gonna
did
add
something new,
twice.
something fresh.
Yeah.
I know the stunning Jake Speary out there will love my Spinneroonie one.
And we were taking the mickey out of him for that in our
I know.
online, but we'll add to it. Let's add to the list. Let's do it. Let's fill it up. It's all good fun here, all good fun. And that's kind of like the majors as well. It's obviously, when we're doing it, when everyone's out on track, it's, wanting to get the best you can, but it's still a bit of fun too. And I think that's something I really like with the way it's been run. It's being run really professionally and really well, to be fair. Like the sessions, the practice sessions, all the sort of pre-race stuff is very professionally run. It's all on the schedule, very, very well done from the admin team at the majors, Pacific Majors organisation. But, it's still a bit of fun, and a lot of people obviously, and they know that a lot of people jumping in to just do it to have a bit of a good time and try some various cars. So, and I think that shows in the racing as well, which is great to see. So I think it's a good mix.
Something's wrong with Corey Preston's car.
Ooh,
He slowed considerably.
Oh, yeah, that front left's looking very sad indeed.
So he was going at full pace. He was battling with Alex Sheridan. Then all of a sudden he stopped.
Yep, found it. Oh, yep, he's clipped the left wall, pegs it there. Through the quick right left, he's just gone far left, clipped that wall, yep, and it may not look like much, but when you clip that wall at that speed, it really stuffs up the steering, and I'm imagining that's what's happened to Corey and why we slowed a bit there too, and he'll have a lot of aero damage too, so that car will be pretty sluggish in a straight line, to say the least. So, bit of a shame for him. He was obviously up there fighting for the lead, and it's kind of all gone a bit pear-shaped, really. He had those moments earlier on, and it's kind of just snowballed from there. So, real shame for Corey, but hopefully he can bring it home and maybe get some solid points regardless.
One to watch at the moment is Bo Albert. He's on a charge. He has got a fair bit of time to catch up to Ashley Lear ahead, but fastest car on track in this class is Bo Albert, currently in third.
Yeah, looking very strong at the moment. Did a 42.6 last lap. It's his best lap of the race. His first 42, I think, since the very start. When he was in slipstream. Yeah, he did a 42. He's on the odd 42 here and there. I'm guessing that was when he's been in the slipstream of a car ahead, got a nice little toe. But that one there, his last one, his best 42 of the race, 42.6. And that's pretty much the same sort of pace that the likes of Dan has been doing. He's actually slightly quicker than Ashley. He's been doing the consistent 43s most of this race. So yeah, as you say, it looks like Bo just been getting the grips with the car a bit more. And just in the last kind of half an hour, he's really picked up the pace. And maybe senses a chance at getting that 5 per second. As you say, he's got quite a ways to catch, and there is only just under half an hour to go, so we are starting to run out of time for him to make any moves stick. But you never know. You might have a go and be close enough. And all he needs to do is keep pumping out these laps, keep putting that pressure on the two ahead, and that just puts more likelihood they might make a mistake, and then he's there to pounce. And that's all it takes in endurance racing, as we know. Anything can happen in endurance racing. As again, we've seen today, and we've seen every endurance race that ever happens, really. Anything can pop up at any time. And if Bo just keeps us up, he'll be in that prime spot to take advantage of any misfortunes.
We just put up, you may have seen in Discord, the synchronised drifting GIF I put up. I just saw it just then too, between Trevor Mack and Corey Preston. They were both drifting identically into turn one. Now, not a spot you want to drift at all, but have two cars drifting at exactly the same time in the exact same manner does not look fun. Preston had to stop completely, and another car also had come to a complete stop, but we're true unscathed as you finally watch it and have a little bit of giggle. That was pretty good, wasn't it?
Corey's drift was legit. That was some legit four-wheel drive drifting right there.
And good way to pull up and not make contact with Mac, who probably over-rotated a little bit on his drift. He would have lost some style points from the judges, but Trevor Mack now under pressure from Preston. This is for position. This is for 8th and 9th. Preston, with that damage, does look very, very sick on that left-hand side, but pace-wise still looks okay in comparison to Mac. Be interesting to see if he can get a move done here.
Yeah, for sure. We'll keep an eye on this battle in the midfield area of the Audis. Does look like, as you say, Corey's a little bit faster than his rival. So you think he should make a move pretty soon. Obviously, those we know Corey. We know that if there's a move to be made, he will not hang around to see what happens. He will get on it straight away and get that move done, especially being the closing stages. I'm sure he's keen to make up some spots. So we'll see whether he can get that move done, Trevor. As you say, his pace is still pretty strong. But as I said, I reckon if he is losing some aero down the straights and losing some top speed, that's going to really make it very difficult to get past Trevor unless Trevor makes a pretty hefty mistake. So we'll see in the coming laps just how bad that damage is really, and see if it is affecting him as bad as we think, or if it's maybe not quite as bad as we think. But either way, just noticing as well, Robert Northway is another one who's been pretty sneaky lately. He's in P4 all of a sudden, just keeping his nose clean. Of course, Bowen had that spin earlier on, and John has had a few moments here and there, and that's that Northway up into P4 in class, which is a pretty good result. Once again, another one of the guys is just plodding along, keeping it clean, and keeping himself out of trouble. And he finds himself at P4 in the Audi class, which is a really strong result. 155 shooting.
And also, Dane Warren's just done consistent 1 minute 33, so we need to keep an eye on Warren. We know it is going to be a tough ask for him to take the race lead, but he's doing everything he needs to now and putting the pressure back on Benefield. Warren's filled up to get it home. Benefield is not. Benefield won't lose a huge amount of time with his pit stop, but traffic could be a factor. Pace could be a factor. Concentration could be a factor. It is not over at the front. Interesting to see how that plays out.
Yeah, no, it's far from over right now. Dane is, as I say, Dane's just having here to race long. He keeps, the thing is, he's been having these, hasn't he? He's had these spurts of consistency, and then he'll have that error somewhere, which costs him effectively all the time he gained. He ended up losing 7 or 8 seconds from a spin. So if he can do this to the end and not have a moment, he might finally actually have a chance of taking that win, or at least challenging for it. He's certainly, as we say, doing everything he can, but Benefield is still staying out. So the more he stays out, the shorter that stop will be. The less time that Dane will sort of gain in the end, effectively. So Benefield, they're both doing everything they can at the moment, so it's obviously win this one. Really, it could go either way. It really could. I mean, Benefield still doing solid pace, still doing consistent 34s, but Dane...
Oh, have a lap from Warren.
Yeah, look at that. How strong is that? 33.5, yeah.
Versus
probably
34.9 for Benefield,
yeah.
So Warren is on it.
Yeah, and he probably got benefited there from a couple of Nissans ahead, giving him a lovely tow down the oval sections of the track. He gets past them both quite cleanly, quite quickly, which is going to help him out. So yeah, Dane really pushing the tempo here, and really putting the challenge up to Daniel that he needs to. He's doing well, but needs to do more apparently to keep that lead. As Norton behind, also doing some good pace, doing some solid low, doing the odd low 34 here and there, probably helped with the slipstream once again. But his pace solid again after that moment through the bus stop, which I'm sure got the old heart rate going a little bit, having a Audi appear in front of you, and of course here to have a bit of a spin. But still on song to get that podium quite clearly ahead of Dean as well in the 31 machine. So really strong performance from Christopher. I think if you can get through one of these races, like Benefield kind of has really, it just kind of shows how good of a race he has had. If you can get through one of these races, pretty much, well, any of the car really, and not have some sort of an error at some point, then you had a really strong race.
Of course, the whole complexion of this series changes when we have our next race in 2 weeks, with us going from vintage or classic road racing to modern oval racing. The Gen 6 cars at the Daytona 500 next weekend, or next race in 2 weekends' time. Looking forward to seeing how it all plays out, and after that, we're only 3 weeks away from the start of V8 Scops as well. So a big few weeks coming up here on V8's Line as we hit the loud pedal for 2018. We get into it full bore, don't we?
Oh yeah, it's going to be a full-on year. Obviously the majors going throughout the whole year. Scops obviously starting up and continuing throughout the whole year. The usual commitments to obviously official V8 Supercar Series and all the rest of the series will be covering. That will be popping up throughout the year. All the various series, OSC as well, OEC has a season 2 in the works, which will be a pretty exciting time for that one. So yeah, a lot of stuff going on obviously in 2018, being being earmarked as a pretty significant year for sim racing, and I certainly agree on that part of it. So looking like it'll be a pretty big one for the hobby, which is great to see. And yeah, we'll see how it all goes. But yeah, going to be a really exciting one for us. And we look forward to obviously bringing you all these races and sort of transferring the excitement that we get from this, from watching them and commentating on them, and transfer them to you, and hopefully you guys get to enjoy it as well, and you know, can understand why we get into this so much, because it's just so much fun to watch. And there's all these things that go on throughout the race. There's plenty of action always goes on. You never know how it's going to play out, and it really is. Every race is just an absolutely fascinating one, whether it be endurance or sprints.
Dane Warren almost clipped the outside of the wall as he come out of the bus stop to overtake an Audi then. So that was very, very close for Warren. I'm very, very surprised if he doesn't have a little bit of right-hand damage there, because that was a little bit closer than he would have liked into the outside wall. But Warren now has a gap, 46 seconds, as Norton is around again at the bus stop, and that car looks sick.
No. Oh, wow, yeah, no, that's major damage. Oh, he's lost it. Yeah, lost it again, just like Dane and others have done before, but unfortunately, rather than going left, it's gone right. So rather than just going in the infield and having a bit of a harmless spin, he's ended up going straight into the fence on the entry to turn 4 on the oval section. And yeah, that's a turn 3, sorry, on the oval section. That's, yeah, big damage to that car, and that's, if not going to be out of the race, he's going to have to probably pit, try and get repairs, and hope he can get a finish out of this one, because that's a very sorry looking distance. So that's a real shame, because we say he was on for a podium after a really strong race from him, and it's all come unstuck, and it just shows how easy that is to happen. I mean, again, in normal endurance, it's always the case that something can happen in the blink of an eye, but especially with how difficult these cars are, you can just have those errors just so easily without even realising it. It was literally one of those errors. He was just on his own, just
good
passing
news
out.
though. He's got his quick repair still intact, so
good.
He's going to get back out there with no damage and a fresh car. So that's a very, very big positive for Christopher Norton. He'll get in, do his splash and dash of fuel, get some fresh tyres, go back out there and finish this race off.
Yeah, indeed, and they're going to lose third spot. Dean Mole now takes over third spot, and I think he might lose fourth as well to Burns. Just keeping an eye on where Burns is. Looks like he will. Just about.
Burns and Mole, though, still have to get. Actually, Mole might. Burns might be fueled up to get home. He might be able to make it the remainder of this race on fuel. So interesting to watch between Burns and Norton right now. As Norton straight out of the pits, he's going to go straight around the outside to get a move done.
No rest.
It's going to be a drag race.
Yeah, and it looks like he's a little bit better on the throttle out of the exit, and he's probably going to get done. And Burns not fighting it too hard, fighting it thereabouts, but not going too crazy. His defence probably knows Norton a little bit quicker than he is, so no point fighting it too hard. So it's back up to fourth for Norton, and hopefully for his sake he can get back that third spot and still recover that podium. Because as I say, apart from that, he's pretty much had no other major errors apart from that one other spin through the bus stop. It's been a pretty clean run otherwise. So still looking on to at least get a top 5, which is still a very strong result.
Benefield still leads, stays out. Probably got another 10 laps before he pits, or 9 laps before he pits. Interesting to see what he does with fuel, because I don't believe he'll be able to make it home. That'll be a 33 lap stint. The most we've seen in this race from these cars is 30. Most of these guys have been pitting on 28 or 29. Yeah. So 13 laps to go. He's on his 20th lap in this stint. I don't think the math says that he can make it.
Yeah. Yep, no, it sounds like he's probably going to have to pit, which should hand that third back to Christopher Norton. Again, we'll soon see in the coming laps, but by the sounds of it, the math does pretty clearly indicate that Mole probably have to do a splash and dash at the end, which should give Norton back the podium. And again, still waiting on Benefield to pit. He still hasn't pitted, he should have to pit pretty soon, as he last pitted on lap 59. So he's coming up the next couple laps to be 20 laps into this stint. As you mentioned, about 23 laps or so it looks like on a tank, so he should have to pit in the next few. So it'll be with about 15 minutes or so to go, so he's not going to need much fuel at all, probably about half a tank thereabouts. So it should be a very quick, short, sharp stop. He will have fresh tyres on a lighter tank, which is going to help him in his fight with Dane, whereas obviously Dane on worn tyres compared to Benefield. So this might still end up playing in Benefield's favour, but it's all going to depend on just how long that stock is.
Hearing as well, Riley Blythe in the chat saying he did 31 laps on his second stint, so it might be a little bit interesting. We might be not quite as tight on fuel as we were saying. So if Benefield's saving a bit of fuel, he might be able to make it with 32. In saying that, he has been pushing very, very hard at the start of this stint, but the second half of this stint he has really dropped off pace. So maybe he is saving a bit of fuel. Maybe that's what's happening right now.
Yeah, he might have seen the numbers as well and realised that if he can save a bit, he might actually be able to get to the end without having to stop again, which would really seal the deal, so to speak, for him as he continues to go along. So we'll soon find out. I think we've got about another 16 or so minutes left in this race, so we're getting into the final stages of this 2.4 hours Classic Daytona, first round of the international majors, the international time slot for this one, and then we've obviously got the Atlantic, European and Pacific time zones coming up in the next 24 hours as well. They'll be races again, as we mentioned, broadcast by their specific or their region broadcaster, and that'll be really good to see those guys going at it as well, and seeing how this all pans out in various different regions. I know the European, as usually tends to go, the European time zones looking very competitive again, and obviously Race Spot will be covering that one and doing the usual top-notch coverage, I'm sure. Yeah, a lot of really, really quick drives in that region, and it looks like that race will be a real cracker, judging from the quality results. So
yep, I think it might be worth getting up early to watch that one in the morning, and also the second split is also being broadcast for all of the other regions as well. So if you're not quick enough to get into top split and you're into the sportsman split or the sportsman's race, you'll still get your broadcast on as well for the other regions. Not quite enough drivers to justify a second split broadcast because there was no second split this week, but coming up later in the season, I would not be surprised if we have second splits for this series in this area, because as soon as a few people realise how competitive and interesting this series is, especially Daytona 500, probably be just one split, but after that I feel like almost every race from there on will see multiple splits, especially once we come to the GT3 races and the Bathurst 500.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I think I was going to say that the GT3s and the IMSA ones, there's a couple where they're using the IMSA format for the cars lineup as well. So those ones with the sort of more popular cars on the service, I'm sure they'll get a couple of splits, probably maybe even more in this region, which kind of tells you what it'll be like in the others. I imagine the European one might even get 3 or 4 or more splits in those particular events. So it's going to be a lot of drivers, a lot of work here for the admin team. But again, as we mentioned, as I've been seeing just in the majors Discord and just the way it's been run, it's all being run very, very tightly, very tight ship they run this series, and it's really reflected the quality of racing and just the quality of the qualifying, practice service, and all that kind of thing. It all translates in the end, it all comes through an extra mile is put in by the admin team. So big kudos has to go to the guys there at Pacific Majors for putting together such a awesome season that we can look forward to for this year.
Registration is still open if you are umming and ahhing and we're tossing and turning about it, and maybe thought, well, round 1 doesn't suit me because I don't like those cars. Still open, still a chance to get on and race, and I think the big turning point for this series is we're just seeing a change of position with Christopher Norton now getting through on Dean Moll. So he retakes his 3rd position in this race. But I think the interesting point in this series will be when we get to the Le Mans 24. When we get there, that's going to be really interesting to see how it all plays out and what teams do and what teams attack. Of course, the top 3 teams from each region will be invited to race in the top class and actually will fight off for some cash. So, pretty big incentive to do well in this championship, isn't it?
Oh, for sure, yeah, it's going to be an absolute cracking event. I'm sure a lot of the bigger teams, Vanderbilt, those kind of guys, all the really big name teams will come out of the woodwork for that. It should be an awesome event. Of course, by then as well, it'll be towards the end of the year, so the LMP ones would have well been out by then, so we'll be able to use them in that event. That is the plan for that particular race. And yeah, it should be an absolutely cracking one to see some of the best in the business, and probably all the best in the business, really coming together to race that one. So that'll be a really awesome event. Yeah, it's going to be a real cracking one to watch. So be sure to watch that one later on in the year, because it'll be an absolutely awesome one. Again, this first race here has been really interesting, really fascinating to watch, and it'll only keep getting better, of course, as the year goes on and all the different series come about. So I certainly can't say it's not the variety of the majors. There's plenty of variety there. It's for a bit of something for everybody. We play oval racing next week for those who are into the sort of super speedway style racing. Then you've got, as I mentioned, the Silver Crowns after that, which is a bit more oval racing, sprint cars in the tarmac sense, which are very interesting cars to say the least, but again, something a bit different. Then stick around for that for sure, and then you start getting to some of the other more traditional races, which will again still be absolutely awesome and probably get really big numbers as well, so the quality will be really high for those races.
Yeah, it will be good. So I think 4th round we go to Circuit of the Americas with the IMSA cars, also the GT3s at the Nordschleife, and also Spa Bathurst, as we said.
Yep.
Also, I think one of the races I think is going to be really intriguing will be the Japanese Grand Prix. Formula One cars at Suzuka. A lot of guys probably dabbled in the car, do 5 laps. Yeah, that's cool to drive, that's fast. But don't really do much more than 5 laps. Would never have done a real proper competitive race in that car. I think that's going to be a really interesting thing to watch, and I'm sure we'll see some different names at the point end of the field for that series, for that race. So just hearing a car in the fence, who is that? Corey Preston's around at turn 1.
No.
Been in the wars in the second half of this race, hasn't he?
Oh yeah, it's been a really difficult race for Corey, and unfortunately, it can be a bit like this for him. Unfortunately, it does kind of snowball a bit sometimes when he does have some bad luck. It does tend to sort of pile on a little bit for him during the races. Again, pretty similar to last time. It's been a bit too hot into turn 1 and has speared it into the wall. Got going again, but it's a couple more dents on the front bumper there. Audi looking particularly sad. That front left's not looking happy at all in that car, but it's still going, which is the main thing, so it can still bring it home for a finish and get some points. But yeah, a little bit of a difficult race for Corey. But again, as we mentioned, these cars very unforgiving, to say the least. So not surprising that you know, a few people having some pretty issue-filled races with the way these cars drive. But yeah, it's going to be very interesting, the Japanese Grand Prix just mentioned, because again, though anyone new to iRacing, you know, the cars used are the modern era cars with the hybrids, and the hybrid is fully working in the sim. And so you've got to actually think about all that engine modes and ERS recovery and all that kind of thing. You've got to actually think about and manage in cars. There's all sorts of that management that you've got to think about with them. You can't just drive them 10/10 all the time. You really think about, where can I save boost, where can I save ERS to use that to defend or attack. It's got the same strategic layer as the real F1 does in that sense. So I have to agree. I think that race will be really fascinating to see what names are where, because it could be a real mix-up for people who race them fairly consistently, or quite a bit, and are quite practiced in them. Some who maybe race them every now and then and have got an idea, a decent idea how they go, but maybe not too much and don't have that much experience with them. And then those who, as you say, kind of do a couple of laps and that's about it, not as experienced with the car. So we get all sorts of mixes with that particular event, and it should be a real cracker to watch.
I think the big surprising thing from me, who I've done a couple of races in a couple of leagues in that car, the fact that you don't take fuel at the pit stops is a really confusing thing. You actually have to manage the fuel from lap 1 and do it, because there's only just enough fuel to make it home. And if you are very aggressive on that loud pedal, you won't make it home. So you've got to think about that too from lap 1. So it's not just about fighting and defending, it's about managing fuel numbers from the second, or even while you're on the grid before the green flag flies. You don't want to be burning any extra fuel than you need to. So it'll be really intriguing race as that comes around in September, I'm fairly sure, from memory that is.
Yeah, I can just quickly load up and check and confirm. I'm pretty sure you're right. I think it is about September for that one. It's going to be a cracking one to watch. And then obviously, as I mentioned, we've got later on in the year, got the Dirt Oval event as well to use the sprint cars, which will be a really fascinating one to watch. Obviously, Knoxville Nationals, got Pocono, IndyCars, another one, a couple of IndyCar events,
2
Indy
IndyCars,
500, yep, Pocono as well. So it's all sorts of really fascinating combos that are going to be played out.
World 600 too will be an interesting one too. 400 laps of Charlotte in the Gen 6 cars. I know I've done a couple of those races. They are true attrition races, those are. If you can finish the race, you end up with a very good position, because Charlotte is not an easy track on old tyres. So new tyres and fresh car, that's a pretty cool combo. But start to get old rubber at Charlotte, and it doesn't really like to turn, it doesn't really like to stay low. So hopefully we'll have a bit more track evolution as well come that point too. So it'll be very interesting to watch. But yeah, 2 weeks time, our next race in this series, our schedule being international, will be slightly modified from the rest of the world, with next weekend, the next race being a week earlier than the European, Pacific and Atlantic regions due to V8 Scops clashing. So V8 Scops will be on in 3 weeks, the same time as the European and Atlantic and Pacific majors will have their Daytona 500. We'll have it in 2 weeks' time, which is actually the same weekend as the real life one, which will be awesome to watch.
Yeah, for sure. It'll be a good little combo of oval racing to do. You've got the virtual version with some of the best in sim racing taking or battling it out, and then obviously the real life one to enjoy as well. So it'll work very well, and should be a really awesome event of plate racing in the old NAS cars. And yeah, as I said, I'm looking forward to it. I'm not expecting to go at all well, but you know, I'll have some fun. No finishes, it's fine with me. Just as long as I have some fun, there's all I'm really after. But the battle at the front has again sort of calmed down once more. Dane pushing as hard as he can, still pumping in really consistently quick laps. But I think Daniel has definitely been saving him. He's really backing off, and because he must have been probably a little bit tight on making it to the end. But he's obviously now realised that he can make it to the end without having to stop again, and that's what he's going to do, which should give him a handsome win in the end, and a bit of a masterclass really from Benefield this race. Just really consistent, really smooth, clean, and that's been the real kicker for him that has kind of saved him or kept him ahead of Dane, because obviously Dane having a few errors, got the pace for sure, but just having a few spins here and there, which probably overall have cost him close to 25-30 seconds really. So
it's cost him the lead of the race. The pace that Warren's got, he should be in first position by about 30 odd seconds, but because of the incidents, crashing, then got forced onto a different strategy, which is pretty much played into Benefield's hands. It's pretty much cost him the race win. And just seeing John King, who was closing on Robert Northway's, just gone straight ahead at the hairpin, and we'll get back going again. But he's lost about 4 seconds, so that battle that we were about to start to watch, because it was getting very close, is over for the time being. But Dan Karakonstantis is out in front by about 24 seconds in the lead of the Audi class over Ashley, doing a great job being very, very consistent. The pace has dropped off the end of this stint, but at the moment, well and truly got enough over Bo Albert, who is about 20 seconds back for third position.
Yeah, for sure. He's
Benefield in the pits.
Oh, okay.
There we go.
Oh,
this
he didn't quite have enough. Yeah, so I guess he didn't have enough. He must have been saving, and he's just not quite had enough. But again, it's only a splash and dash, isn't it?
Yeah.
So he's only really going to probably lose something like 20 seconds on Dane. And yeah, Dane coming through, I think 3 and 4 by the looks of it. Yeah, Benefield's already out. So unfortunately, not going to see a battle for the lead yet. Oh, Dane's having to pit too.
Oh, wow.
He's not made it either. There you go. I think it makes sense, I guess, because he has been pushing very hard this stint. So I guess he's he's just been using too much fuel, and even has splash dash.
I guess because he did have a shorter stop to try and get that jump, he maybe has realised right now that he may have cut it too fine as well to try and get some track position. So Warren in is fairly clear ahead of Christopher Norton, nearly a full lap ahead. So he shouldn't drop any more spots. Norton's a good 8 seconds ahead of Dane Burns in that class as well. So Warren is away after a 10-second splash and dash. Benefield, though, will come across the line. He'll have 3 to go when he comes up to the stripe this time. He's only got 4 minutes on the clock. This race has absolutely flown by. It does not feel like a 2.5 hour endurance race at all.
No, I'm looking at the time. It says 8:30 here. It feels like it's 6 or 7. Looking around going, it's 8:30 already? Jeez, where's that gone?
Yeah, I know. It's amazing.
Yeah, unbelievable. It's always the case with these Euros. It has its lulls, but there's still those moments that get you back into it, and before you know it, it's just the time's gone and it's all over all of a sudden. So tends to be how these Enduros go. It doesn't feel like it's flying by too much at the time. Then when you actually look at it, you're like, gee, that really has just absolutely gone. So tends to be how they go. But no, been a really, really interesting race. Obviously, a little bit of a sort of slow burn here at the end with Benefield. Pretty clearly out in front, but again, with the way he's driving, it's not too surprised. Not much of a surprise he's leading by the kind of margin. He's just been super consistent and smooth all race long, and that's been the key to the win. But we had some great battling in the Audi class as well. Even again in this instance, had some great duels playing out all throughout the field. So no, been a very, very good events, and again, obviously it's only going to get better as this all goes on with the European, Pacific and Atlantic time zones coming up in the next 24 hours. So be sure if you are around when they're on, go over to their respective broadcasters, obviously GSRC, LSR TV and Race Spots for their respective broadcasts of their region. Be sure to give them a watch because, again, going to have 2 splits for all of those different races, see more drivers taking part in those regions, and so the racing can only keep improving with those races coming in the next few months.
Which means that the racing in both of those splits will be even tighter with there being multiple splits. So that will to English will show that they're even tighter, more intense racing with there being multiple splits of racing. Jeez, I got it out finally. Good English.
You're inheriting my tongue.
Oh, gee whiz. It's been a long day of racing overall with obviously the Bathurst 12 hour on during the day today, watching that unfold and the drama unfold, and slightly disappointing end to that race. So, spoiler alert once again, anticlimactic end.
Yeah, unfortunately, but again, with the mountain, we know how much it bites when it does bite, and obviously found that out. Plenty of teams found that out in the 12 hour. I know. I remember obviously one of the Audis that was second at the time. In the latter stages of the race, had a very simple, looked very simple when you look at it. Obviously on the outside, it's anything but in the cockpit. But had just a moment down into the dipper, of course, trying to go around the outside of a lap car, got on the dirty stuff into the wall, and that was their race effectively done. It just shows how quickly it can all go wrong, especially obviously at any track, but especially obviously at a track like Bathurst, where the walls are right there, and if you're even a millimetre, a little bit too much turn in, or a little bit too much on the outside of a corner, and you can find yourself completely out of the race. So it was a solid race. So, sort of probably a few too many cautions. Maybe there was something like 14 or 15 in all, and probably a few too many cautions for my liking. But had its moments.
Yeah.
So, obviously kudos to Audi. Spoiler alert for those who haven't watched it. Kudos to obviously Audi for taking the win there. May have been in the end, may have finished not like we wanted, but still, for them to be at the front right at the end of 12 hours at the Bathurst, it's always well deserved, no matter what no matter what you may think of them. So yeah, very well done to the winners of that one. But looking at finishing up this one now, about to come over for the final lap for Benefield. And speaking of dominant races, I mean Benefield really just been pretty much a masterclass in how to drive the Nissan in these kind of races.
Yep, may not have had the outright pace that Dane Warren had. Warren in qualifying was 8/10 quicker than the entire rest of the field, but being the fastest in one lap pace does not necessarily translate to race pace, and too many mistakes for Warren has cost him a potential race win. Benefield now on this last lap of the race after 144 minutes of racing. Get it out finally. It is now officially the final lap of the race, and Benefield has 45-second lead. So Benefield, as it stands right now, has this one comfortably in the palm of his hand. It will take some sort of bizarre mistake for him to lose this one. But this is sim racing. It can happen. It does happen.
We've seen it happen.
We have seen it happen.
You never know, but you think Benefield just got to negotiate the bus stop with it.
And Benefield's internet is very, very well known to have issues. So fingers crossed for him that he does not see any issues. But good job from Benefield, just being a very, very consistent drive in this race the whole way through, from start to this point right now, through the bus stop for the final time.
Yeah, what a race from Benefield. Just a awesome run from him. You'll be happy to know, Jay, as well. Jake has obviously been watching. Tagged you for Luba, I can't even say it, but the lovely little bit of an English.
Oh, thank you. Made the quote wall for that.
When you're trying to get the sentence out. So thanks for that one, Jake, on the ball. It's Daniel just coming across now to take the win for the international region here for the first race, the Pacific Majors season of 2018. Well done, Daniel Benefield, as the fireworks go off as they always do in Daytona. Always a bit unsettling when you're still halfway around the lap and the fireworks start going off in your ears. Always a bit of an experience, but still well done to Daniel. Very, very strong performance from him and a great win for him in the first race of this season. Dane Warren just coming through the bus stop for the final time as well. And he's going to take a second spot. Probably a bit of a, again, as we mentioned, a bit of a what could have been. He definitely had the pace to be battling for the lead and winning it for sure. But just those couple of errors, unfortunately, creeping in and costing him a chance to win. But he will also take a second spot. That's a podium and some very solid points. He's going to finish going 3-1 with the Audis. No, he's going to play the smart and back out. Good call. Best to not have a moment like that across the line, but he will take a second, which is still a very solid result. Some very good points for him. He'll take away from this one. Christopher Norton did end up holding on in P3 and that 437 car, despite the crash at the bus stop. So good result from him. Duane Burns in 4th and number 19 machine, and Dean Mole just coming across the line now to take 5th. And the number 31 machine started 5th, finished 5th. So nice, clean, or nice and consistent run there from Mol Coriot. Our Bears Online, obviously brethren, 11th to 6th, so good strong result for Corey. Some good points as well. We'll probably be pretty happy with that one. Brett Loxton in 7th, there's Jake Fox in 8th. Jerry, maybe a try. Jerry Foe, I'm going to say. Not going to do the whole last name. Number 676 machine. 630, yeah, 676 machine. He gets P9, P20 too. So Jerry.
And here comes our Audi winner across the line with Dan Constantis. Great drive from him, great drive, and he's actually officially finished with a 1-lap win because of where the finish of the race has been. So congratulations to him, officially winning this race by a full lap due to how the race positions ended up. But an awesome event. Well done to the admin team from the Pacific Majors. We'll get some drivers in for an interview very, very soon. But to get us there, we might quickly run through the official race results. Only 2 drivers on the lead lap in the end. Benefield, too good in the end over Dane Warren, too consistent. And it's just meant a fairly convincing win in the end for him over Dane Warren. Christopher Norton, great drive from him. A couple of mistakes put him a little bit further back than what his true pace showed, but he finishes in 3rd. Dwayne Burns in 4th. D Mole in 5th. Coriot in 6th. 2 laps down with Brett Loxton, Jake Fox. Yep, Jerry Fur Club. We're going to be completely wrong. We'll go with that. No? And James Robbie rounds out the top 10. Mark Noble and Brad Matheson finishing 11th and 12th in those classes. I'll leave it for you to run through the Audi field.
Indeed. So Dan Constantis takes the win there in the 294 machine. Again, a really, really strong performance. He's obviously in that battle at the front of the field. Front of the Audi field early on in the race, but just kept it really clean and consistent and very fast too. Just slowly walk away and end up taking a pretty convincing win in that machine. So great run there from Dan. Ashley Lear in the 349 machine for Talking does get that 2nd spot. Very strong result there. Ryan Bo Albert, who we do have in here for an interview in a minute, does get on the podium. So great result for Bo there for 3rd. Robert Northway, another one. Very strong race from him. Was hanging around in the midfield for most of the race, but found himself in P4 in the later stages. A great result there for Robert, keeping it very clean throughout. John M. King ends up in P6. Then it's Shane Bowen, Alexander Sheridan, Daniel Atchison, Ray Partridge, and Trevor Mack round out your about top 10 or 11 in the Audi field. So yeah, awesome race, Jay. Very, very good fun. Enjoyed it a lot, and yeah, some great racing throughout, and good to see the old monsters, I suppose, getting a run as well.
Yeah, awesome to see some unfamiliar cars get some very, very big airtime and a fantastic day or night of racing throughout the field. We'll get the front runners in for an interview in the next few moments. We won't actually go firstly. We'll go to start with 3rd in the Audi class because he is here. Bo Albert, good driver. Got away from, unfortunately, Ash and Dan got away from you, but then once you got yourself into some clear air, you had some pretty good pace there.
Yeah, well, I was a bit unfortunate with the first hour because my headphones actually dropped out completely and I had no sound at all.
Oh, God.
And it's my first time doing heel and corner car, so the first stint was a bit of a nightmare trying to figure everything out. So my pace wasn't brilliant, but nah, like you said, once got the sound fixed in the first pit stop, had pretty good pace, so I can be happy with today. And Ash and Dan were brilliant pace all race long, so I don't think I would have caught them anyway. But 3rd, start of a really big series, which I'm really looking forward to. Can't be disappointed.
Yeah, for sure. And, we were saying, the one thing I always found with practice, at least for these cars, was obviously the closing speed with the Audi and the Nissans pretty crazy, especially through somewhere like the bus stop. I mean, how are you finding it with the Nissans in the traffic?
Quite simply terrifying. on some laps, you see they're like half a second behind you, you jump on the brakes, and you're just kind of turning in and hoping for the best. They've pulled out. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. But regardless, I think all the drivers in this field, all very smart drivers. They use their head, know what they're doing. So pretty clean stuff out there for the most part.
Yeah, awesome. Great to hear.
Yeah, I was about to say, I think for the most part clean. I think the main incidents we saw were just due to unfortunate spins from a little bit of inexperience with these cars more than anything else.
Yeah, well, I was originally going to go into the Nissan, but that car is just brutal with wheel spins, so I'm not surprised there might have been a few Nissan casualties. But yeah, these cars, they don't get used too often, so it's great to see them in an event like this. And No, they're a lot of fun, and I wish they would be used more because, like, the fastest way to drive these cars is with heel and toe, and you don't have that with too many cars on iRacing. So if these cars popped up in more series, I'd definitely be keen.
For sure, yeah, definitely. I'd probably very much the same as I was saying throughout the broadcast. So good to see a few of us here knowing, wanting to see these beasts really get a bit more airtime than they do, a bit more running. But I guess moving on to the next one, both at Daytona, of course, completely flip it all around. We go from 80s monster machines to the current day NASCARs around Daytona, and obviously the plate racing format. I know it's you probably don't do as I know you don't do as much oval racing as you do for like road circuit racing. What are you sort of expecting from that one?
I'm expecting to have a very sore foot from the throttle, being on 24/7, and it's NASCAR. It's going to be crazy. It's going to be a lot of fun, and I'm looking forward to it, especially with the professional settings such as majors. I think it's going to be one of the highlights of the season, to be honest.
Yeah, I can't wait either. I think it's going to be absolutely fantastic. I'll give you some tips later on, though, Bo, and we might let you thank who you need to thank, and we'll go to our next interviewee because he is patiently waiting. Actually, before I do that, I'm going to give you a little bit of breaking news. There were some issues with Ash's car. He actually was only getting to about 80% throttle on that last stint.
Oh,
So
okay.
that's a pretty incredible job for Ash. So well done to him.
No, that's an absolutely stellar job by him because I was catching him slightly in the last stint, so story definitely checks out. But and I'd just like to say a quick thank you to Logitech G for their constant support of the team. Joey Old Timing, used that throughout the race, absolutely love it. And also to our newest sponsor, Motum Simulation, great to have them on board. Hopefully I gave them a good showing in their first appearance on our cars.
Yeah, congratulations, mate. That was very well done. Well done to you. Well done to your whole team. You ended up with the best result out of your, I think, 3 drivers you had in this race. So, congratulations to you.
Thank you very much.
We'll go next to Daniel Benefield, our race winner in the Nissan class. Congratulations, Daniel. Didn't have the best pace out there, but you definitely had the best strategy and the best overall performance with a lot of consistency.
No, to be honest, I don't even have the best strategy. Would have been nice to be able to save a bit of fuel and not have to make that splash and dash at the end. But yeah, other than that, drove the car for once in my life. 200 laps of practice was actually worth it, and it was really consistent. And I just did what I had to do, really.
Yeah, for sure. And it's Dame was obviously hounding you pretty much all race, and really it looked like it was just those little errors from him that kind of cost him that chance to win.
Yeah, I had a bit of a plan going into it because I knew the 2 guys that started in front of me were close in quality, and I knew that my quality lap wasn't my best lap. So it was just get into second as quick as possible and just run consistency and see how consistent Dane was. And lucky for me, he wasn't. Which, I mean, it was a pretty easy race for me from there.
Yeah, it was still very, very strong result.
Go, Hinsey, you're all right, mate. Go.
Yeah, okay, no worries. Yeah, and these cars, obviously, I mean, I guess with your pace, they, you find them pretty good fun to drive, and obviously, I mean, one of the things for me, I know that was kind of shocking, as I mentioned about the broadcast, something to adjust to is obviously the Nissan, at least, doesn't actually require the clutch to use, which is a bit of a weird feeling for like an 80s, GT car. So how do you find that?
Sorry, did you say that? So that you did have to use the clutch?
No, don't.
Yeah,
don't have to. Yeah, so it's
I was going to say because I didn't use the clutch at all.
No, yeah, exactly. It's a bit weird, isn't it? Though, because the 80s, prototype,
not
you think
really.
you would, but okay.
Not really. It's just obviously downshifting is just the same as the V8. But upshifting is just like you get. You occasionally miss this. I think I missed about 3 or 4 shifts in that race, just going up. But I mean, it's consistent enough that you don't have to do it, and it's really nice. It meant I didn't have to try and heel and toe in VR, which would have been an interesting prospect.
Definitely an interesting experience, but looking forward to the next one. Obviously, Daytona 500, so here again, but in oval format.
Oval.
Yeah. So I guess we know what you're thinking for it.
Yeah, I won't be racing until I think it's the Sports Car Showdown.
At
the next
Coda.
one at Coda.
So you're going to just be a road course ringer, mate.
Yeah, well, there is a road course championship, so I can still get some sort of acknowledgement for just doing the road races.
All right, we better let you thank you. You got to thank before we let you head off and get yourself ready because that one's a little bit away, but some big racing coming up. Of course, the OEC up in 2 weeks at the same time, so you'll be preparing for that now, I'm guessing.
We've got Bathurst 12 hour next weekend first. But obviously OEC will be my main priority because obviously we can win the championship in that one, and I really want to win that championship. And obviously it's my my beloved HPD as well, so that adds to that. But in saying that, I may not get that. No, it's in February, so I was going to say after that I can relax and wait for LMP1 release, and I can finally change my nickname back to my normal name in this Discord.
No, that won't happen. We'll leave it as something.
Yeah.
We'll make sure
That's great.
Let you thank who you need to thank.
Well, obviously we get a lot of support from our sponsors. Our two main sponsors being WP Concreting and Western Mazda, and of course we've got our other sponsors, Bendigo Motion Performance Exhaust and GDHI iRacing Images. Obviously, all great supporters of our team, both V8 and sports car side. So it's very good to have them all on board.
Well, congratulations on a very, very good win in the first race of the Major Series International Region. Congratulations.
Thanks, guys.
We'll go next to man who finished second in the Audi class. Congratulations, Ash.
Yeah, thanks. It was a good race. Enjoyable.
Now, I know, speaking from experience, that you absolutely adore this car, and when you saw that there was a race in this car, you made sure that you made yourself available for this. Yeah, go pretty much to plan.
Yeah, it wasn't too bad, really. I sort of always enjoyed this car because it's a challenge to drive. You get to heel and toe, which you don't have to in most other cars in iRacing, so it's always good fun like that. And yeah, sort of went to plan, really. Wasn't quite quick enough to catch Dan, I think it was, out the front there. He just sort of managed to hold station with me a bit at the start of the race and just follow him around, but he managed to pull a gap, and that was about the end of that.
Did traffic play a big factor in him pulling that gap on you?
Probably did, actually, because I was just sort of sitting there hanging behind him, just backing off in the draft, just sort of following around and pull a bit of a gap on the guys behind us. But yeah, sort of got held up behind one of the Nissans there a bit, and he got a bit of a gap and just lost the toe, and that was the end of it.
I also heard as well that you had issues with the throttle on your car. Can you confirm that?
Yeah, I'm sort of testing a set of pedals I built myself. They're just in a bit of a prototype stage at the minute, and I got about an hour in, and then they decided to not give me full throttle. I was only probably getting about 90%, so that didn't help for most of the race.
Are you going to stick around for the rest of the series too? You're going to race Daytona 500 2 weeks time?
I haven't really thought about it, to be honest. I was sort of just going to do this race because I like the car so much, and you never really get to use it. So we'll see what happens.
I reckon you will. I can tell Mitch and Hayden will be like, yeah, let's race.
Maybe. I do like over races. They're good fun too.
Yeah, and being obviously the Daytona, it's, you never know what's going to happen, and I'm sure there'll be the usual big wreck somewhere along the line. But yeah, thanks for coming in again there, Ashley, and again, well done on your result, man. Especially with the issue with the pedals, definitely not helping. Just more kudos once again for that. So no, very well done, Ash, and thank you.
No problem at all. Thanks for talking to me.
Yeah, no worries. That was Ashley Lear there from obviously Talk Inc. Jay there, obviously they're the crew, part of the crew, and yeah, I was just thinking that, Jay. I can imagine you guys would probably get into the 500.
Yeah,
I can imagine Hayden they would be right into it.
Mitch and Hayden are very, very well known to jump in and do oval races at any opportune time that they potentially come up. So I would expect to see the bizarre blue of Talk Inc. out on track. I don't know what colour you call it, the blue of our cars, but yeah, we'll probably see the Talk Inc. guys. But it's going to be really interesting to see how it all goes at the Daytona 500, because I know that there are going to be a large portion of the field that have never raced a plate oval race ever, and a lot of guys that are going to try and push hard at the start of the race, not realising and thinking about the long-term effect of that. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to seeing how it all plays out. It could go one way or the other. We could have an absolutely amazing race, so we could end up with about 20 cars out in the first 5 laps. I'm not sure which one it will be. Hopefully it will be the former and not the latter.
Yeah, no, agreed. Yeah, hopefully it'll be a really close fought, intense race, and the retirement rate isn't too high.
We'll see how it goes. As you say, you never really know until the race itself, and you kind of get a vibe for how people are driving, for how that will go. So we're just going to have to hope and wait and see. But again, the admins, I'm sure, will, there is that 30-lap practice minimum. But of course, that's not necessarily running with traffic, which is a big thing, obviously, with plate racing. But generally, I have noticed one thing I have noticed with the majors so far. It's been really good to see is pretty much all the practice servers have filled up pretty quick, and generally have a good chunk of people doing laps. So hopefully, it'll be the same for Daytona, and people will get practice, running with other cars and stuff, and can make the race a real quality one. And we'll see how we go though. We won't know until obviously the event itself. But it should be a cracker. So once again, awesome race tonight with the 80s monsters being the Audi GT 090 and the Nissan GDP ZXT. Finally got it right this time. For some reason, nice little embarrassing alert here. Nice little embarrassing alert. I'll self-burn myself here. I do it all the time. I always thought for a long time, because as shown with Gene's name, getting it wrong for like 8 months. Apparently, I don't read things properly half the time. I thought the Nissan was the Nissan ZDP, not GTP. I don't know why. I saw the Z instead of the G, and that's what I thought it was for ages. And recently, I was like, wait, hang on, look at the name. Oh, it's so yeah. I do that sometimes, as you probably
I do
notice
it too.
if you watch me.
Yeah, if you ever watch, I actually get numbers around the wrong way, and I'll say numbers completely wrong. But enough of burning ourselves. Thanks for jumping in the booth with me, Thomas. And I'm fairly sure you're going to jump back in 2 weeks with me for the Daytona 500.
Yeah, I'm sure I will. I'm sure, obviously, again, racing in a different time zone for basically that purpose. I'm sure I'll be along. And yeah, it should be a cracker. As you say, being Daytona, it always throws up an interesting race. And you literally never know who could win it, because that's just how plate racing is. It literally, as long as you're in the right spot at the end of the race, in that last phase, then you have every chance of winning. And so it'll be a cracker, I reckon. And I'm very, very much looking forward to it.
Yep, I cannot wait. So that'll be in 2 weeks' time. It'll be a massive weekend of broadcasting in 2 weeks' time, because we'll be live for that as well as OEC at the same time. So going to be very, very interesting how stretched we're going to be for that one, but we'll push on and we'll get it sorted. I'll be here for majors, and I know Fonty will be there for the second half of OEC. But Hinsey, thanks for jumping in, mate. Very, very much appreciate it. Big congratulations to everyone who participated in the first race of the Majors series. What is going to be a phenomenal 2018 for this series and all of the other series here on V8 Online. From the whole team here at V8 Online, we thank you for tuning in. We will see you at our next broadcast tomorrow night for the iRacing official V8 Supercar series. Until then, bye for now.